My husband called me to the hospital in the middle of the night, asking me to perform surgery on his first love, Fang Qingping. When I arrived, Fang Qingping was lying pale on the hospital bed, with a diagnosis of uremia at the foot of the bed, urgently needing a kidney transplant. I said she was in the late stage, and without a matching donor, the surgery couldn't be performed. My husband, however, mistakenly thought I was jealous and slapped me, yelling, "Are you even a doctor? Do you want to watch her die? Can't you just find more matches?" I nodded. "Indeed, it's a match. Your kidney matches hers. You should donate one." As soon as I finished speaking, my husband's expression changed. He frowned and said, "What kind of joke is this at a time like this?" I spoke coldly. "Yang Xiaojian, don't you know how scarce kidney donors are?" Yang Xiaojian's eyebrows shot up, his voice filled with anger. "Would I come to you if it weren't urgent? You're my wife. Can't you even help with this?" I laughed in anger, my gaze falling on their tightly clasped hands. "So you still remember I'm your wife? Oh, Jian, don't be so hasty. Quickly apologize to Dr. Sure." Fang Qingping spoke up, her face wearing a fake smile, refusing to let go of Yang Xiaojian's hand. "Dr. Sure, please don't misunderstand. Jian and I are nothing. He's just concerned about my condition." I forced myself to resist the urge to punch her in the face, keeping a cold expression. "I'm not misunderstanding anything. The only help I can offer right now is to arrange for your dialysis immediately." I waved my hand, signaling the nurse to take Fang Qingping for blood tests and other checks, but Yang Xiaojian didn't follow. Instead, he blocked my path as I tried to leave. "Shizhou," he said through gritted teeth, "do you have to embarrass me like this? Is it me embarrassing you, or you embarrassing me? Why didn't you go to the specialized hospital in the south of the city? Why bring this here, so others can laugh at me? This just makes me furious." "Yes, we are a top-tier hospital, and I am indeed the attending physician in nephrology, with a bit of a reputation in the field, but just less than 20 kilometers from our hospital is the Central South Nephrology Specialist Hospital, ranked third in the country. When it comes to nephrology, the level of their specialized equipment far surpasses what our hospital can offer. Why did they have to send her here? Flirting in front of me like that? Do I have no self-respect? What are you being unreasonable about? What joke are you talking about? She's just an old classmate of mine." Yang Xiaojian was clearly on the verge of losing his temper, but for some reason, he held it in, forcing a smile as he spoke. "Shizhou, let's set aside our misunderstandings for now. A life is at stake, so I need to ask you something first." "What do you want to ask? What's your blood type?" Yang Xiaojian stared at my face. Unblinking, his scrutinizing gaze sent a chill through me, enveloping my entire body in an instant. "I understand." Despite the higher priority for kidney allocation at Zhongnan Hospital, Yang Xiaojian sent Fang Qingping to my hospital because he had his eyes on my kidney. He wants me to donate my kidney to his white moonlight, too. I feel a bit breathless, as if a heavy stone is pressing on my chest. Yang Xiaojian must have already taken Fang Qingping to Zhongnan Hospital. But they didn't find a matching kidney. This is almost certain. The first step in kidney matching is that the blood type must comply with transfusion principles, and Fang Qingping's blood type is O. O-type blood is inherently the most common blood type, accounting for as much as 47% of the population. O-type blood is also known as the universal donor, as it can be accepted by A, B, or AB blood types without causing rejection. However, as a recipient, O-type blood can only accept transfusions from other O-type donors, and the same applies to organ transplants. This makes the probability of O-type blood patients finding a compatible kidney the lowest, at only 47%, matching their population proportion. Other blood types have a minimum of over 70%, with AB type being 100%. Kidneys are already extremely scarce, and matching is complex. With Fang Qingping's blood type, 53% of donors are automatically excluded, making the probability of a successful match effectively zero. Therefore, if Fang Qingping wants to get a kidney transplant, the only option left is a designated donation. Find a healthy person with O-type blood to donate their kidney specifically to her. This is why Yang Xiaojian came to see me. "I'm O-type." I took a deep breath and stared back at Yang Xiaojian. There's no point in lying, since Yang Xiaojian is asking. He must already know my blood type, after all. We've been married for 5 years, but precisely because we've been married for 5 years, even though I know what he's planning, I still want to hear him say it himself. "Can you really say it, Yang Xiaojian?" Yang Xiaojian can talk. He casually suggested, "Why don't you donate one to her?" I felt a chill run through me, staring at him in disbelief. Yang Xiaojian's gaze was intense as he said, "You have 2 kidneys anyway. Giving one to save her life isn't too much to ask, is it? My throat was choked with something, and it was with great difficulty that I managed to speak. Yang Xiaojian, are you crazy? What's crazy? Yang Xiaojian looked righteous. You're a doctor. Isn't healing and saving lives your duty? And don't you doctors always say that having only one kidney doesn't affect normal life? So, this statement is just to trick others into donating, right? But when it comes to you doctors, it's not acceptable. I looked at him sadly. At the man who was supposed to care for and cherish me, yet was scheming to take one of my kidneys. Yes, if you maintain a healthy diet and lifestyle, regulate your schedule, exercise regularly, and get routine checkups, one kidney is sufficient to meet the body's normal needs. In fact, over 1 million people nationwide are born with only one kidney, 1 in every 200 people. And most of them never realize they were born with a single kidney. But why should I? Why should I donate my kidney to a mistress? 3. My hospital colleagues started giving me strange looks. They huddled in groups in the corners, whispering among themselves, exchanging meaningful glances whenever I approached. Snippets of conversation occasionally drifted into my ears, filled with speculation. What's going on with Dr. Sher's husband? He's got a mistress, that's all. Having a mistress is normal. But bringing her to our hospital and flaunting their relationship so openly, that's just too much. I heard it's because Dr. Sher wronged her husband. Look, they've been married for 7 years and still don't have a child. Dr. Sher is busy, and she's only 28. It's normal if she doesn't want to have kids yet. No, you can see how much Dr. Sher loves kids. I heard she wants to have a baby. But she can't. What's the reason? Well, infertility in women usually comes down to a few common reasons, either congenital developmental issues or not taking care of oneself. Amidst all the strange looks and sudden exclamations of realization, I made my way to Fan Qingping's ward. The moment I pushed the door open, I saw Fan Qingping leaning against Yang Xiaojian's chest, the two of them intimately close. Oblivious to everyone else, Fan Qingping now needs dialysis twice a week. Her complexion has turned sallow, and she appears somewhat swollen all over. Yang Xiaojian was feeding Fan Qingping cushion carp soup. The soup is rich in nutrients and has a delicious flavor, requiring little salt or seasoning, making it perfect for someone like Fan Qingping who suffers from uremia. However, the cushion carp was small and full of bones. Yang Xiaojian was meticulously and patiently picking out each bone for Fan Qingping, a level of care I had never seen before. Don't be so meticulous, she has uremia, not high spinal cord injury, I said coldly. She's like this, and you still say such things. Do you have a conscience? Yang Xiaojian showed no guilt for being caught, his face equally cold as he questioned me. Where have you been these past few days? Can't I be treating other patients? There are more people in the world with kidney diseases than just her, I retorted without hesitation. Yang Xiaojian's eyebrows shot up, and he spoke angrily. I asked the nurses, and they said you haven't been working these past few days. I can't take it anymore. Isn't it enough that I have no face to show? Can't I just not want to see you flirting with her at my workplace, picking fish bones for her? Dr. Sher, you're mistaken. Jian and I are classmates. He's just pitying me and came to take care of me. There's nothing between us. Fan Qingping spoke up, turning to Yang Xiaojian, looking pitiful. Jian, forget it, I won't get treated. Don't blame Dr. Sher. Without a kidney donor, Dr. Sher can't do anything. If anyone is to blame, it's me for having this terminal illness. Fan Qingping struggled to get up, but Yang Xiaojian held her down firmly. Qingping, just focus on getting better. You don't need to worry about anything else. He turned to me, his face contorted with rage. Shizhou, are you even human? Do you have to drive her to death to be satisfied? What's the big deal about donating a kidney to save her? Yang Xiaojian's eyes were bloodshot, glaring at me. After 5 years of marriage, I never knew you could be so vicious. How did you become a doctor? Haha, I laughed bitterly out of anger. What a ridiculous thing in the world, a man who meticulously coerced his wife into donating a kidney to save his mistress, yet had the audacity to accuse his wife of being vicious. Blood rushed to my head, and I spoke decisively. Yang Xiaojian, don't say I didn't give you and your old classmate a chance. Earlier, when I said we'd start with you for matching, I wasn't just kidding. Your blood type is also O. I pulled out 2 copies of the designated organ donation intent form and slammed them provocatively onto Yang Xiaojian's face. You sign this form, and I'll sign it too. With a crisp snap, Yang Xiaojian seemed visibly stunned. He looked down at the 2 agreements fluttering to the ground, his eyes betraying a hint of panic. What do you mean? To save Qingping, 1 kidney is enough. Why sign 2 intent forms? I spoke with a sarcastic tone. Yang Xiaojian, kidney transplantation isn't as simple as having the same blood type. To ensure survival, HLA matching must be performed. The more matching antigens, the higher the survival rate. In addition to blood type and human leukocyte antigen, there's one more critical factor, the cross-match test for lymphocytotoxicity. This is an extremely crucial step that directly determines whether a kidney transplant can be performed. Generally speaking, due to bodily fluid exchange and other factors, most couples test negative, meaning they are suitable for transplantation, I said with a meaningful tone. Yang Xiaojian's eyes suddenly became much clearer. He leaned down and gently wiped the corner of Fan Qingping's mouth. Qingping, what would you like to eat tonight? How about I make you some chicken soup? Fan Qingping wasn't buying it at all. Her eyes lit up as she grabbed Yang Xiaojian's hand. Ah Jian. Would you donate a kidney to save me? Yang Xiaojian tried to subtly pull his hand away, his eyes avoiding hers. Of course, I'd be willing to save you, but a man's kidney is very important. I've heard it can affect male function, so I need to discuss it with my wife. Right, Shizhou. He looked at me. Nonsense, I replied without hesitation. Even if it really does have an impact, I agree. I added another jab. Yang Xiaojian was stunned. He let out a low roar. Shizhou, are you crazy? Whether I'm crazy or not doesn't matter. You wouldn't refuse to donate, would you? 4. I looked at Yang Xiaojian with satisfaction. She's your old classmate, your white moonlight. She's so young. Are you really going to just watch her die? A life is at stake, and all you're worried about is a single kidney. Are you even human? Do you have any conscience left? Yang Xiaojian's face turned a deep shade of purple. He gasped for breath, glanced at Fan Qingping, who was full of hope, and then looked at me. Fine, I'll sign. He gritted his teeth and glared at me. I'll bet with you to see whose kidney is more suitable for transplanting to Qingping. I picked up the 2 intent forms from the ground, signed my name on one of them, and handed it to Yang Xiaojian. Yang Xiaojian snatched the pen from me viciously, and hesitated for a moment before signing. You wouldn't cheat, would you? No, I wouldn't. If you cheat, you know the consequences, with a menacing threat. Yang Xiaojian grabbed 2 intent forms and strode out of the ward. A soft sigh echoed. Shizhou, how hard you've worked to protect him. Does he even know? It was Fan Qingping, and the pitiful expression on her face had completely vanished, replaced by a chilling smile. Is it really worth it to turn against your best friend of so many years just for a man like that? So you still remember that we were best friends for years? I looked at Fan Qingping, my emotions tangled. Of course I remember. How could I ever forget? Fan Qingping smiled at me. After all, it was you who stabbed me in the back at the most crucial moment. Shizhou. 5. Fan Qingping's smile was radiant, but the coldness in her eyes made my scalp tingle. I shook my head slightly and sighed. Yang Xiaojian had been lying from the start. Fan Qingping was not his old classmate at all, but it's mine, from my school days. I was very close with Fan Qingping. We became good friends in middle school. From middle school to high school, and then to college, we were inseparable, until the second semester of our senior year when we started our internships. Fan Qingping and I were both assigned to intern in nephrology, under the guidance of a nationally renowned nephrology expert. At that time, Master was already in his 70s, had long since retired, and his re-employment contract with the hospital was about to expire, meaning he was soon to completely leave the medical career he had dedicated his life to. The reason he was willing to take us 2 interns under his wing was to contribute his last bit of warmth. As our internship was nearing its end, Master told us he had a recommendation slot that could directly get us into the nephrology department of the 3rd Municipal Hospital, securing us a position with a formal appointment. The 3rd Municipal Hospital is the hospital where I currently work, a top-tier tertiary hospital with an extremely high starting point. Not to mention the formal appointment. Both Fan Qingping and I were eager to secure this opportunity. Fan Qingping was smarter than me, had better grades, and was also better at charming people. She managed to make our master smile every day, and she always believed that he would choose her, but the master chose me. Fan Qingping left without saying goodbye. When I saw her again, she was leaning on Yang Xiaojian's side, looking delicate and sickly. When it comes to betrayal, who is really betraying whom? But I don't want to argue with Fan Qingping. Fan Qingping is a very opinionated person, and once she makes up her mind, she won't change her view because of others' words. It seems you won't rest until you take Yang Xiaojian's kidney, I said coldly. Either yours or Yang Xiaojian's, you choose, Fan Qingping said decisively. Aren't you afraid I'll tell Yang Xiaojian the truth? You approached him just to get back at me and take his kidney, didn't you? My anger was starting to get out of control. Fan Qingping is too arrogant. as if all of this is completely justified. No one owes you anything, Fang Qingping. Fang Qingping scoffed at my anger and threats. You can try it and see if he believes you or me. Just as I was about to speak, the door suddenly burst open and Yang Xiaojian walked in. Fang Qingping suddenly jumped up from the bed, her hair disheveled as she threw herself into Yang Xiaojian's arms, tears streaming down her face. Ajian, I won't get treated anymore. I'll go home now and wait to die. I don't want to be in the way of the doctor. Yang Xiaojian's hair stood on end. And he spat out each word through clenched teeth. Zhang, Yu, Yen, get out of here. Watching Yang Xiaojian's twisted face and Fang Qingping's triumphant gaze, I had nothing to say but to let out a loud laugh. Ha, there was no point in saying more. I turned and walked out of the ward. As I reached the door, I suddenly turned back and gave Yang Xiaojian a cold glance. There's something I forgot to tell you. The reason I had you sign that intent form is because I already got your matching report. You and Fang Qingping have the same blood type, the same tissue typing, no rejection in the cross-check, and even 4 matching target points for white blood cell antigens. Generally, as long as there are 2 or more, transplant surgery can be performed. For matching target points indicate one thing. I smiled at Yang Xiaojian and said maliciously, Yang Xiaojian, your kidney is destined to be hers. 6. I took a month off. I really didn't want to stay in the hospital and be judged by others. And there are more than just me in the nephrology department. Fang Qingping's dialysis didn't need me to be there. But during this month, Yang Xiaojian almost blew up my phone. When I saw Yang Xiaojian again, it was at the entrance of the hospital dormitory. Yang Xiaojian had come specifically to intercept me. He no longer exuded the arrogance or aggression he had before. He stood haggardly in the cold wind outside the dormitory gate. Seeing me come out, he took a few hurried steps and forced a strained smile. Sure, Zhou, let's talk properly. I frowned at him. What else do you want to talk about? Don't get upset yet. I feel like there are a lot of misunderstandings between us. What misunderstandings? Over the past few days, I've reflected on my actions and realized that some of them have indeed crossed the line. Yang Xiaojian was sincere. And I responded non-committally with a and then, these actions have indeed caused you harm and distress, and have led to some unfavorable talk about you. I apologize to you, but, I interrupted him bluntly. A flash of anger crossed Yang Xiaojian's face, but he paused, then continued sincerely, you know, I'm a very emotional person. I always thought this was a strength, but now I realize it can also make me lack some boundaries, like Fang Qingping, who lost her parents at a young age. Back in school, we all felt sorry for her and treated her like a little sister. After graduation, things would have naturally faded, but recently she suddenly contacted me, saying she had uremia. My sympathy got the better of me, and I promised I would help her. You know what I'm like, I'm very straightforward. When I care about someone, I go all out. This has made Fang Qingping dependent on me, and I've started to see her almost as a real sister. He looked utterly remorseful. I know, it's all my fault. You can curse me, hit me, even stab me to death if you want, as long as you don't feel wronged. Wait, I couldn't take it anymore and interrupted Yang Xiaojian's performance. If he kept going, I was afraid I'd burst out laughing right there. Yes, I'm not wronged. I just want to laugh. There's also a touch of sentimentality. Yang Xiaojian definitely has some talent, especially with his expressions and his persuasive skills. His mood swings he could justify as not wanting to pretend in front of me. His betrayal, he explained, was due to his excessive kindness and compassion. His words could convey the most sincere and heartfelt love, and coupled with his genuine expressions, he had me completely under his spell. That's why I married him despite knowing his temper. A simple "I'm a very emotional person" was enough to make me fall for him, until I realized it was a classic line for a player. You treat Fang Qingping like a real sister. I retorted, yes, I know it's wrong. Would you sleep with your own sister, and without a condom, too? I taunted sharply. Yang Xiaojian was both embarrassed and furious, his face turning a deep shade of purple. Sure, Zhou, don't jump to conclusions. It's not what you think. I have photos on my phone of you and Fang Qingping in bed together. I pressed on relentlessly. Photoshopped. I'm straightforward, and I tend to offend people. Someone must be setting me up, really. I looked at him skeptically. Really, I swear, if I cheated, I'd be lower than pigs and dogs, and my whole family would be animals. Yang Xiaojian's eyes flashed with a hint of delight. Then the child in Fang Qingping's belly. I can only suggest she gets an abortion. I looked full of regret, while Yang Xiaojian stood frozen in place. 7. Yang Xiaojian's expression was quite a spectacle, a mix of shame, anger, confusion, and surprise. What did you just say? I pressed. Yang Shaojian's oath just now was quite moving. I wanted to hear it again. Unfortunately, Yang Shaojian didn't give me the chance to enjoy it. He stepped forward, staring straight at me. Is Qingping pregnant? A revolting stench filled my nostrils. One that reeked of degeneracy. And it came from a family of scum, yes. Is it yours? I took a big step back before speaking. Of course not. Yang Shaojian shook his head reflexively. So I suggest Fan Qingping terminate the pregnancy, I said calmly. Yang Shaojian finally snapped out of it. His face flushed. Why should she terminate it? Because Fan Qingping is in the late stages of uremia and now needs dialysis 3 times a week to stay alive. Pregnancy would severely increase the burden on her kidneys, triggering multiple complications, and could lead to the death of the pregnant woman in a short time. I stared directly into Yang Shaojian's eyes. So, patients with uremia are all required to terminate their pregnancies. How far along is she? 5 months. Probably conceived before she was hospitalized. During that time, Yang Shaojian said he was traveling to Hong Kong, but I noticed 2 intertwined reflections in the scenery photos he sent me. I silently added this to myself. Why can't you tell? Because she has uremia. The fetus is developing slowly, and she has ascites. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I laughed. This is patient privacy. Why should I tell you? Who are you to her? Yang Shaojian was at a loss for words. He suddenly knelt down. With a heavy thud on the concrete floor, Yang Shaojian looked up. Shizhou, I beg you, save Qingping, save the child in her womb. I'll do whatever it takes to make it up to you. Just save her, save the child. Although it should have been a satisfying moment, I felt no joy, only a deep sigh. This is the second time Yang Shaojian has knelt before me. The first time was when he proposed. Yang Shaojian has always wanted a child, I know, but I've always been unwilling to get pregnant. Perhaps this is also one of the reasons why we have grown apart. Yang Shaojian, have you forgotten the vows you made when you last knelt down? If you don't love, then leave, don't deceive, and don't betray. There's a saying I've always believed to be true. A jerk is born a jerk. And no matter what you do for him, it won't change his nature. Do you think having a child for a jerk will keep his restless heart in check? No, only the woman herself is trapped. Watching Yang Shaojian kneel before me, I felt a pang of pity. Even now, Yang Shaojian still believes he is Fan Qingping's savior, her light, deeply loved and relied upon by her. Little does he know that in Fan Qingping's eyes, he is merely a tool for revenge against me, a tool that can even provide her with a kidney. Perfect in every way, it was me who, out of consideration for our marital bond, tried to prevent all this from happening. Fine, I'll make one last effort. Yang Shaojian, this is the last time I'm helping you. Whether to save her or not is not up to me. It's up to you. To save the baby, you must take the risk of performing a kidney transplant on Fan Qingping during her pregnancy. However, post-transplant, large doses of immunosuppressants will be required, which can cause severe adverse effects on the fetus, leading to stillbirth or congenital developmental issues. The only hope is to find a kidney with a highly matched target, such as a 4-point match, in order to minimize the use of anti-rejection drugs. I stared into Yang Shaojian's eyes. Yang Shaojian, transplant your kidney to save the child, or abort the child to save your kidney. It's your choice. 8. Yang Shaojian lay on the operating table. He made a choice that I had long anticipated. This was an unprecedented kidney transplant during pregnancy, and the hospital took it very seriously, adhering to the highest standards in every aspect. I quietly looked at Yang Shaojian through the glass. All his body hair had been shaved off, making him look a bit cuter. The nurse had already inserted the needle for the general anesthetic, and the anesthesiologist was carefully observing Yang Shaojian's reactions. Reduce the dose of the anesthetic gas slightly. His antithrombin activity is low, and an excessive dose could lead to cardiac arrest. I suddenly spoke to the anesthesiologist, who looked at me in surprise. Okay, he nodded reluctantly. I understood why the anesthesiologist was surprised. In terms of status, the anesthesiologist is higher than the lead surgeon, and I had no authority to command him. Besides, I wasn't even the lead surgeon for Yang Shaojian. Living kidney transplantation requires surgery on both the donor and the recipient simultaneously. Removing the kidney is the simplest step and can be done by any general surgeon. The truly critical part is the transplant surgery, which I, a nephrologist, performed on Fan Qingping. As the summoned general surgeon began the procedure, I returned to my own operating table. Both surgeries were conducted in the same operating room, separated only by a glass partition. And even the anesthesiologist was the same. Fan Qingping was pregnant, so she couldn't undergo general anesthesia. She had to be kept awake throughout the procedure under local anesthesia. When she saw me pick up the scalpel, she smiled faintly. Sure, I'm counting on you. I know you have issues with me, but rest assured, even if the surgery fails, I won't blame you. All the medical staff, including the anesthesiologist, instinctively looked at me, but I no longer cared, after all. I've long been the laughingstock of the entire hospital. I also understand why Fan Qingping is saying this right now. Clearly, she's afraid I might retaliate, so she's trying to publicly shut me down in advance. This surgery can only succeed, not fail. Even the slightest mistake could ruin my career and even land me in jail. Shut up, I said coldly, making a clean cut. The surgery was a success. This can truly be considered a landmark achievement in my career. The nurses wheeled both of them to the ICU, and I stayed there directly. The first few hours after a kidney transplant are critical. If hyperacute rejection occurs, the transplanted kidney needs to be removed immediately. However, this probability is extremely low. Both Fan Qingping and Yang Shajian's vital signs are stable, and all indicators are very optimistic, even without the need for anticoagulants. Fan Qingping's newly transplanted kidney has resumed natural blood supply. It was as smooth as if the kidney had been born to Fan Qingping, only accidentally growing in Yang Shajian's body. Fan Qingping, however, remained fully conscious throughout, and as she watched the nurse's retreating figure, she suddenly spoke up. I didn't expect you to go to such lengths to help me with the surgery. Shizhou, do you regret it? 9. What are you regretting? I said coldly. Fan Qingping was sorry not to see my expression. Back then, you knew I had congenital renal tubular dysplasia, and kidney failure was inevitable, yet you still competed with me for the chance to become a nephrologist, cutting off my last hope. Have you ever regretted it? Fan Qingping was serious, and my response was a cold laugh. Fan Qingping wanted to become a nephrologist because, in a sense, nephrologists hold the power to allocate kidneys. I have never regretted it, I replied with a cold laugh. Master knew all along that you would eventually need a kidney transplant to save your life. That's why he chose me instead of you. Why? Because my master said that a doctor should be a pure doctor, must have medical ethics, not seek personal gain through medicine, put the patient first, and take relieving the patient's illness as one's own responsibility. Medical ethics. Putting the patient first, Fan Qingping sneered. Shizhou, would you put the patient first? If Yang Shajian didn't donate a kidney, would you give me yours? I would, I answered without hesitation. Shizhou, you've actually learned to be shameless. Fan Qingping was still sneering, and I shook my head, choosing not to argue with her on this matter. Treat Yang Shajian well in the future. After all, he truly loves you. As I said this, my emotions were mixed. While Fan Qingping widened her eyes in surprise, what are you thinking, Shizhou? If you don't want such a trashy man, do you think I would? He donated a kidney for you, and that doesn't even earn a shred of gratitude from you. Just out of surgery, Fan Qingping was very restrained, but I could tell she was laughing inside. Gratitude? For what? This dog of a man, only you would treat him like a treasure, knowing he's cheating on you, yet you still defend him. But you're still pregnant with his child. Fan Qingping finally couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. Shizhou, you don't really think this is his child, do you? She had an eerie smile on her face. Does he deserve to have a child with me? Even if he does, could we even conceive one? Don't forget, the more target points match, the harder it is to conceive. This child, is it just a tool for your revenge? I took a deep breath. Fan Qingping was right. Her and Yang Shajian's HLA matching was too high, making the probability of them successfully having a child extremely low. This has been proven in many cases of kidney transplants between couples. Of course, otherwise, why would I insist on getting pregnant before the hospital surgery? That's the only way you or Yang Shajian would donate a kidney to me. Fan Qingping's expression was wild as she stared at me intensely. This is what you owe me, Shizhou. I looked at Fan Qingping with a complex expression. So, you actually don't care about the effects of the surgery or medication on the child, it's just a tool. Why should I care? I sighed and shook my head. Fan Qingping, you will get your comeuppance. I'm waiting. Fan Qingping replied thus. 10. Fan Qingping stayed in the ICU for 2 days before being immediately transferred to Zhongnan Hospital. She callously abandoned Yang Shaojian, who had just donated a kidney to her. I took an extended leave and rented a place to live on my own. The kidney transplant for Fan Qingping caused quite a stir in the industry, as it was the first successful case in China of a kidney transplant on a pregnant patient. Some hospitals invited me to share my experience, and even offered me job opportunities. Yang Shaojian is still being treated in our hospital, and I don't want to see him every day, let alone get involved in his entanglement with Fan Qingping. After all, It's over between us, we just need to sign the divorce agreement. But this matter obviously won't be easily resolved. 2 months later, one evening, I suddenly received a call from a colleague. Dr. Sure. Are you in town now? I'm here. What's up? Great. There's a patient who wants to see you. Please hurry to our hospital. I rushed to the hospital, just finished putting on my sterile gown and entered the emergency room, only to see Fang Qingping lying on the emergency bed, covered in blood. What happened? I asked the emergency doctor beside me. The victim sustained 7 stab wounds to the chest and abdomen, resulting in severe damage to multiple organs and organ failure. I was stunned. What about her child? The emergency doctor, of course, knew who Fang Qingping was. He shook his head. The child is fine. To minimize the impact on the fetus and ensure Fang Qingping's recovery, she was induced at 37 weeks at Zhongnan Hospital. The baby is currently in the neonatal department at Zhongnan Hospital and is said to be healthy. I breathed a sigh of relief and pointed at Fang Qingping. What about her now? It's hopeless. Multiple organ dysfunction syndrome. The emergency doctor spread his hands, giving me a meaningful look. At her request, we administered a cardiac stimulant. You have at most 5 minutes left. The emergency doctor stepped out, and I walked over to Fang Qingping with a complex mix of emotions. You're here. Fang Qingping looked haggard and spoke in a weak voice. You're going to die, I said with a sense of resignation. I know, multiple organ dysfunction syndrome, right? I heard it. Fang Qingping fell silent, and I didn't speak either, feeling a mix of sorrow and relief. To put it simply, multiple organ dysfunction syndrome means multiple organs are failing simultaneously, and even a deity couldn't save her. Don't be fooled by the fact that she can still speak. It's entirely thanks to drugs like adrenaline. How did you convince Yang Shaojian to come and kill me? Fang Qingping suddenly asked. I raised an eyebrow. Did Yang Shaojian stab you? What are you still pretending for at this point? On the day of the surgery, you had the anesthesiologist reduce the dosage. Wasn't that just to make Yang Shaojian wake up early? Fang Qingping said with a contemptuous smile. You've got it wrong. I did deliberately make Yang Shaojian wake up early, but not to have him seek revenge on you. I wanted him to protect that child. Fang Qingping's face suddenly turned pale, and her breathing became rapid. You knew all along. Yes, I nodded. Fang Qingping's eyes began to lose focus. Sure Zhou, how ruthless you are. Are you even fit to be a doctor? Her electrocardiogram turned into a straight line. 11. I went to see Yang Shaojian for the last time. Yang Shaojian committed premeditated murder, resulting in death, and it happened in a highly sensitive place like a hospital, in front of countless doctors and patients, causing extremely bad influence, and was sentenced to death. He asked to see me before his execution, so I went to the detention center, where the lethal injection was carried out. It had been nearly 2 years since that surgery, and seeing him again felt like a lifetime had passed. I held a baby girl in my arms, the child born to Fang Qingping. The baby girl was 1 year and 5 months old, very cute. Besides being a bit small and thin, she was healthy and smart, already able to babble and call out to people. Yang Shaojian was shackled with handcuffs and leg irons. He looked at the baby girl with utter disgust. What do you want with her? He asked me. I brought her to see her father. I replied seriously. Sure Zhou, are you here to laugh at me? Yang Shaojian's eyes began to redden, a sign of his rising anger. No, she's your daughter, your biological child. Yang Shaojian was stunned. He looked at me puzzledly. What do you mean? Didn't you say I couldn't have children with Fang Qingping? You can't have children with Fang Qingping, but you can with me. I explained calmly. You, Yang Shaojian seemed visibly confused. Yes, when you took Fang Qingping to Hong Kong for treatment, she secretly had IVF using my egg cells. But I didn't provide the sperm. She graduated from medical school. Given how many times you two were intimate, was it really that hard to collect some? I looked at Yang Shaojian with sarcasm, and it was clear that his brain wasn't quite keeping up. Why did she do this? Because your kidneys will only last a maximum of 10 years. She wanted to use this child as a backup kidney source. You're type O blood, and so am I. So the child will definitely be type O. You match 4 target points. I match 2, and the child will most likely match her. Yang Shaojian's face twisted in fury. He took a sudden step forward, rattling his chains. You're not playing me, are you? No, everything I said is true. I sighed. Yang Shaojian's sudden move caused the police to react instinctively, pinning him down forcefully, yet Yang Shaojian seemed oblivious, straining his neck to look at the baby girl in my arms. Remember, our daughter is called Shirxin, and she takes my surname. I gave Yang Shaojian one last glance before turning to leave. 12. Fang Qingping and I are actually kindred spirits. Fangqingping has a hereditary condition of absent renal tubules, while I was born with pituitary dysfunction, making me infertile. It was because of our congenital illnesses that Qingping and I became so close, to the point where she agreed to carry a child for me, and I agreed to donate a kidney to her. For this, she accompanied me to Hong Kong to freeze my eggs. And I accompanied her to intern in nephrology. However, Qingping is naturally strong-willed and highly suspicious. She never believed I would really donate a kidney to her. She wanted to take her fate into her own hands. She worked hard to become a nephrologist, but her master chose me instead. A friendship of many years instantly fell apart. Years later, when she reappeared, she had forgotten our agreement and only remembered my betrayal in her previous life. She took the most vicious measures to retaliate against me, using Yang Xiaojian to force me to donate a kidney and then forcing me to transplant her daughter's kidney to her. Only when I died at the hands of the enraged Yang Xiaojian did I vaguely guess the truth. The first thing I did after being reborn was to start confirming. When Fangqingping had her first dialysis at the hospital I was at, I had already flown to Hong Kong to retrieve my frozen eggs, which were found to be mismatched after testing. Without Fangqingping's DNA sample, comparison was impossible, so we could only confirm that her blood type was also O. When Fangqingping was 4 months pregnant, I took the opportunity to perform an amniocentesis while confirming her kidney compatibility, extracted fetal cells, and sent them to a professional institution for paternity testing. The results of the test confirmed that the child was indeed mine. In my previous life, I had actually removed my daughter's kidney myself. Shizhou, raise Shixin well, and we'll call it even. Yang Xiaojian's roar suddenly echoed from behind as I was almost at the gate of the detention center. I paused slightly. Yes, Fangqingping, Yang Xiaojian, we're even now. Mommy, don't cry. A warm sensation suddenly spread across my face as Shixin's tender little hand touched it. Mommy's not crying. I pressed my face against Shixin's, soft and smooth, feeling very comforting. Fangqingping was right when she said that before she died, I truly no longer deserve to be a doctor in this lifetime. However, I can be a good mother. Story 2. I became lame trying to save my childhood friend, yet he thought I had staged the car accident just to separate him from the girl he loved. As a result, he hated me for the rest of his life. On his deathbed, he only said that if he could do it all over again, he'd rather be disabled than see me again. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment just before his car accident. I decided to let him have his way. This time, I didn't save him. 1. The smell of disinfectant filled my nostrils. Jifan's parents were crying hysterically outside the operating room. My ears were blocked, and I couldn't hear clearly. Finally, my mother shook my arm vigorously. Li Yuni, go and comfort your uncle and aunt. I came to my senses and shook my head. Just then, the doctor came out and regretfully told Jifan's parents to prepare themselves mentally. The car ran over the child's ankle, causing a comminuted fracture. He's alive, but his foot will be lame. In other words, Jifan would become disabled. Jifan's mother fainted on the spot, while I stared blankly at my own intact legs. They were of equal length, and I could still wear normal-sized shoes. I had been reborn. In my previous life, Jifan picked up a girl on his way home late at night. It was dark and cold, and Jifan must have seemed like a savior to her. Without hesitation, he took her home, and love quickly blossomed between them. She adored him, and he pitied her. However, this relationship wasn't favored by Jifan's parents. They didn't like the girl and strongly urged Jifan to send her back to her own home. Later, at the dinner table, Jifan's parents started nagging. Think for yourself. What kind of girl wanders the streets alone at 3 in the morning? Jifan frowned. I told you, she had a fight with her parents. Just because of a fight with her parents, she can casually move into a boy's house she's only known for a few hours. Jifan, don't be so naive. Look at Yuni. Ask her parents if they'd let Yuni move into someone else's. I was just minding my own business, eating, when I was suddenly dragged into the conversation. Before the sentence was finished, Jifan slammed his bowl and ran out. In my previous life, I was afraid he'd do something impulsive, so I chased after him. I didn't hear clearly what Jifan shouted at me. All I saw was a runaway truck speeding towards us from the side of the road. Almost instinctively, I rushed forward and pushed Jifan away, but I couldn't dodge in time and got hit on the ankle. From then on, I became lame. My right foot swelled up so much that I could only wear specially made size 45 shoes. Jifan felt guilty, and a few days later, he even proposed to marry me. I asked, what about her? Jifan shrugged indifferently. My parents don't approve anyway, it's going nowhere, so why hold on? He sounded so carefree, but after marriage, he loathed me. Later, he often begged me to drink with him, crying, because of the alcohol. My foot ulcerated, became infected, and eventually, I had to have it amputated due to delayed treatment. But then I heard Ji-fan complaining to his parents. What's the difference between a paralyzed person and a dead one? Why doesn't Lee just die? Everything I endured stemmed from that one act of kindness towards Ji-fan, yet he wanted me dead. In complete despair, I turned on the gas at home late at night. As the fire raged, Ji-fan left me in the inferno, desperately looking for a way out, but it was useless. No one could escape. Before we died, Ji-fan shouted at me, "If I could do it all over again, I'd rather be disabled than see you again, too." I was reborn. This time, when Ji-fan ran out, I didn't chase after him. In my previous life, he often said jokingly, "If you hadn't followed me out that day, I wouldn't have turned around on the road, and maybe both of us would have been fine." Well, in this life, the inevitable still happened. As I was sighing at the irony of fate, a loud roar came from the ward. Ji-fan had woken up and couldn't accept that he had become lame. "Son, don't move around. The doctor said it's a comminuted fracture. It's already a miracle you're recovering like this." I turned around to see Ji-fan stubbornly jump out of bed and try to walk on his right foot, but after just one step, he let out a scream and fell to the ground, muttering, "Impossible, it's just a simple fracture. I won't be lame." Ji-fan's mother turned around, covering her mouth as she cried silently. My heart ached. Aunt Ji had always been kind to me. In my previous life, she took meticulous care of me. Seeing her like this, I just felt angry that she had such a disappointing son. I walked over helplessly and called a nurse to help get Ji-fan back into bed, but he pushed me away. "Get lost. My foot is fine. I can walk on my own." I stopped the nurse when she tried to help him. The roles were suddenly reversed from my previous life. Now, I looked down at him struggling on the ground. After getting married in my previous life, Ji-fan thought I had staged the car accident to separate him from the girl he loved. And he hated me deeply for it. Once, when I needed to use the restroom and tried to move from the bed to the wheelchair by myself, I accidentally tipped over the wheelchair and fell to the ground. I struggled for a long time but couldn't get up. When I finally looked up, I saw Ji-fan hiding behind the door, watching me with satisfaction in the mirror. At that moment, my heart turned to ice. Just then, a voice brought me back to the present. "Ji-fan, stop this nonsense and focus on getting better. Okay, I'm begging you, son." Looking at Aunt Ji trembling all over, I let out a sigh. "Ji-fan, if you keep this up, your foot will get even worse. It'll swell so much you won't be able to fit your shoes." The nurse gave me a curious look, as if asking how I knew. Of course I knew. I had endured all that pain myself. How could I forget? 3. In this life, I didn't want any more involvement with Ji-fan. But my mother couldn't let go of the long-standing friendship between our families and insisted that I pick Ji-fan up from the hospital. When they removed his cast, a foul smell hit me. After not taking a bath for so many days, the stench of sweat mixed with the smell of the cast was overwhelming. I couldn't help but frown and take 2 steps back. Ji-fan, however, quietly gripped the bed sheet tightly, with such a strong sense of pride. How would he cope in the future? On the way home, I casually asked, "Ji-fan got hurt because of that girl. Hasn't she come to see him these past few days?" Ji-fan's parents looked furious at the mention of her. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Ji-fan press his lips into a thin line. After a long while, he finally managed to speak. "Io said she's busy lately but will come to take care of me in a couple of days." Having grown up together, I knew exactly what he meant. Just being stubborn and trying to hold on. Aunt Ji was about to say something, but Uncle Ji stopped her with a wave of his hand. But I didn't want Ji-fan to have an easy time. I turned to Aunt Ji and said, "Let Ji-fan do whatever he wants. He's already upset about his injury, and being in a good mood will help him recover." I didn't ask for anything else. I just hoped Ji-fan and Tong Yao would stay together and stop hurting others. Aunt Ji looked at me, hesitant to speak, but in the end, she held back. I understood what she was thinking. Ji-fan and I had grown up together, and our parents had always secretly expected us to end up together. As for my feelings for Ji-fan, I tilted my head, thinking, I couldn't remember when that innocent love first started. As for when it faded away, maybe it was when Ji-fan yelled at me, thinking I was trying to bully Tong Yao, or when he forgot my birthday because he was too busy sending her home. Anyway, now I regarded him as a stranger. I wouldn't seek revenge deliberately, nor would I get involved in anything related to Ji-fan ever again. I hoped he and Tong Yao would last. I just wondered if that girl named Io could endure what was to come. 4. Both my family and Ji-fans lived in detached villas. Although we were neighbors, As long as I didn't go near his place on purpose, we wouldn't run into each other for days. The next time I saw Ji-fan was a week later. He was being pushed around the neighborhood by the girl he loved when my mother and I, who had just come back from the supermarket, ran into them. "Auntie, let me officially introduce you. This is my fiancé, Tong Yao." In front of his beloved, all the hostility in Ji-fan vanished, the dappled shadows of the leaves fell on his face, and the genuine smile in his eyes was impossible to miss. My mother and I smiled and congratulated them, but Tong Yao pulled her hand away from Ji-fan's. "Ji-fan, don't talk nonsense." Tong Yao twisted shyly, "My mom doesn't even know about us yet." After all these years, the old confident look finally returned to Ji-fan's face. "If you're willing to marry me, I'm willing to marry you. This is a done deal." I didn't have the heart to shatter the sweet fantasy Ji-fan had created for himself. When we got home, my mother sighed, "Poor Ji-fan, he used to be so tall." Now, I shook my head, "It's his own choice. It was the same in my previous life and this one," I said casually. But my mother just kept sighing and looking towards the neighbor's house. She said, "What a pity for Aunt G." Looking in the direction my mother was staring, I saw Aunt G sitting on the swing in the yard, lost in thought. It seemed that overnight, her hair had turned a lot grayer. In my previous life, Ji-fan had always complained. He said that if it weren't for me, he and Tong Yao would have already gotten married and had children. I retorted, "I never wanted to marry you. Weren't you the one who said you had to take responsibility for me because I got hurt saving you? That's the way it is with kindness. Too much can turn into resentment." He stared at my leg with a look in his eyes I couldn't understand. "Li Uni, stop pretending. I know you like me and have always wanted to marry me. This is all just a ploy to marry me. You and my mom planned this together, trying to morally blackmail me into submission." I fell silent. Li Uni, thought I was pretty decent in many ways. Why would I deliberately make myself disabled for a man who couldn't tell right from wrong? When Aunt G saw us looking at her, she hurriedly wiped away her tears. I lowered my head, saying nothing. Ji-fan still seemed to think that his meeting with Tong Yao was fate. Little did he know that in my previous life, I had someone look into it, and it turned out Tong Yao was just trying to catch a rich man. She had walked that road where Ji-fan went home more than 10 times. 5. Aunt G brought us the invitation to the engagement party. There was regret in her eyes. "Uni, you." I smiled and handed the invitation to my mother, then said, "Auntie, I partnered with a friend to open a homestay. It's opening the day after tomorrow, and I'm leaving tomorrow." In my previous life, when I was in a wheelchair and Ji-fan ignored me, only my college roommate would often come to take care of me. I don't know how she found out about my situation, but every time I fell from my wheelchair, she would struggle to lift me up. But she herself was in a tough spot, married to a gambler who had squandered all their savings. This time, before she married that gambler, I took her to another city to make money, all to repay her kindness from my previous life. Aunt G was taken aback, saying my departure was so sudden. That night, someone knocked on the door. When I opened it, it was Ji-fan. He was on crutches, and his right foot was so swollen he could only wear oversized slippers. I frowned, wanting to close the door, but Ji-fan suddenly reached out to stop me. After looking at each other for a moment, he took out some wedding candies from his pocket. "I heard you're going out of town to open a homestay and can't make it to my engagement party." I nodded but didn't take the candies. After a long silence, he suddenly apologized. "I didn't mean to snap at you during dinner last time. I was just so angry at my mom. Don't take it to heart." What had he said? Oh, right. Aunt G didn't approve of Tong Yao and thought Ji-fan and I should be together. Ji-fan took his anger out on me and shouted, "Impossible. I have no feelings for Li Uni at all. Give up on this idea." I wasn't sure if he was saying that to me or to Aunt G. But it didn't matter now. I smiled. "Okay, I need to pack my things. You should go." The next day, I met up with my friend and took a plane. Thankfully, the homestay was doing well, with many people coming to visit. There, we heard countless stories from different people. One night, when we were working the night shift and drinking and singing with the guests, Chinzi suddenly said, "Li Uni, you seem different." I blinked. "How so?" "You're so capable now and won't let anyone help you. I remember in college, you were the complete opposite. You'd even want me to hand you a glass of water while you were in bed." I laughed at her exaggerated description. In my previous life, I needed help with everything after I became disabled. In this life, since I'm okay, I want to pay back all that kindness. 6. The next time I saw Ji-fan was a year later. When I got home, I happened to see the neighbors moving out. I ran into Uncle G, but as soon as he recognized me, he turned and walked away. It was completely unexpected. "Mom, where are the G family moving to?" I asked out of curiosity. This time I was home. I could tell that the atmosphere between our two families had become strange. Did something happen while I was away? But my mother just frowned, then waved her hand and refused to say anything. From my bedroom window, I could see next door clearly. G-Fan was hobbling around on crutches, unable to put his right foot on the ground. Suddenly, Uncle G lost his temper. He threw a cardboard box roughly into the car and then kicked G-Fan in the butt, just like when G-Fan was a child and got punished. But this time, from the bits of conversation I overheard, I sensed something was wrong. And where was Tong Yao? I guess my nosy look was too obvious, because my mom slapped me irritably and said, "Aren't they engaged?" Lao Ji sees how determined his son is, so even if he's reluctant, there's nothing he can do. Besides, look at G-Fan. How could he find another girlfriend in his state? My mom is extremely empathetic. Get to the point. After interrupting her rambling, I learned that Tong Yao had scammed G-Fan out of 188 million yuan in betrothal gifts. Although our two families have some money, it's not enough to squander like this. But the G family just wanted them to get engaged quickly and live happily ever after, so they transferred the 188 million yuan to Tong Yao's account during the engagement banquet. However, 3 months later, Tong Yao suddenly claimed that she had a miscarriage and caused a huge scene at the G family's house. In short, she wanted to call off the engagement. Tong Yao said at the time, "This cripple couldn't even protect our child. What good would it do me to marry him? I must break off the engagement." G-Fan was so angry that he was stunned. With her son in this state, Aunt G of course didn't want to break off the engagement easily. In the end, they had no choice but to say that she could call off the engagement, but she had to return the 188 million yuan in betrothal gifts. But Tong Yao's family insisted that the 188 million yuan was compensation for the miscarriage. They refused to give back a single cent. Just like that, the G family lost both their money and their dignity. They've lived in this neighborhood for most of their lives. Now, they can no longer bear to stay here out of shame. 7. After hearing the gossip, I didn't pay much more attention to the G family's situation, but unexpectedly, G-Fan actually messaged me and asked to meet in the neighborhood garden. I refused without a second thought, but my mom urged me to go and persuade G-Fan. G-Fan arrived late and stumbled when walking on the gravel path. Seeing that I didn't move from my seat, he looked a bit awkward. "Do you also think I'm stupid?" Now I'd become the laughingstock of the whole neighborhood. Thinking about the sweet and sour pork ribs my mom made, I replied without hesitation, yes. I hadn't seen G-Fan for a year, and he had lost a lot of weight. His clothes were no longer the brand name items they used to be. He had become slovenly. G-Fan laughed self-deprecatingly and moved his heavy right foot. "Look at this foot. I really want to cut it off." Well, if he continues to give up on himself like this, it probably won't be long before he actually does it. I'm kind of looking forward to it. However, although 188 million yuan wouldn't completely bankrupt the G family, it was enough to give them a huge shock. After a moment of silence, G-Fan suddenly looked at me seriously. "Uni, if I said the child in Tong Yao's belly wasn't mine at all, would you believe me, huh?" In response to my shocked expression, G-Fan pointed at his foot with a bitter smile. "Look at me now. My foot is so swollen that it hurts at the slightest touch. What could I have done?" But Tong Yao, it was all an act, just slander. With his hands in his pockets, looking up at the sky, the more he tried to pretend not to care, the more obvious the pain on his face became. She latched onto a rich second generation and wanted to get rid of me quickly. This was actually something I expected. However, Tong Yao was really cruel. She cheated on him and then turned around to blame him, even keeping the betrothal gifts with a clear conscience. "I wonder if he regrets it now," G-Fan asked me. "You used to be on high alert whenever you heard Tong Yao's name. Why didn't you stop me when I ran out that day?" I suddenly found myself at a loss for words. See, no matter the circumstances, men can always shift the blame onto you. Not wanting to be alone with him any longer, I stood up and kept a safe distance from him. "I'm leaving. Let's not contact each other unless necessary." Just as I was about to leave, G-Fan suddenly grabbed my wrist. "If you had stopped me then, would the outcome be different now?" I pulled my hand away and said coldly, "No, I mean, I wouldn't have stopped you." 8. This time I came home to take a short vacation and also give Chini enough time to sort out her own affairs. Yes. Fate is so mysterious. After going through so much, she and her boyfriend got back together. I didn't try to persuade them to break up. To some extent, Chini is just like G-Fan, stubborn until they hit rock bottom. All I could do was give Chini some confidence. In the 3 years since we opened the homestay, we split the profits 50-50. My savings have been growing steadily, but Chini has nothing left. Her boyfriend has taken it all. But I'm glad she finally saw through her boyfriend's true nature as a gambler before getting married. After not coming home for a year, I was treated like a princess as soon as I got back. But just a week later, my mom came home and slammed the door. I jumped out of bed and took out a stack of banknotes from my bag. Here, is this enough? I imitated what I saw on my phone, trying to silence her with money. But then I realized that my mom's eyes were red. What's wrong? I put away my playful attitude. Did you argue with Dad again after going out? My mom, who had been neighbors with the G family for over a decade, pointed at their building and called them shameless for the first time. Your dad said there were some problems with the G family's company, so I kindly asked if they needed help, but guess what his mom said? I listened attentively as tears streamed down my mom's face in anger. She told me to go home and persuade you to marry G-Fan. I was speechless. How brazen could they be? She kept saying that it was G-Fan who was in the wrong, and that she could tell you had feelings for him, but when G-Fan did those things before, why didn't they discipline their son properly? I almost laughed out of anger. I never expected the G family to be so blatant about finding a fallback. We raised our daughter well, why should she go and be a nanny for their son? It's not like she can't get married, as she spoke. My mom kept stealing glances at me, seeing that I didn't say anything. Her voice softened. Uni, to be fair, you two grew up right under our eyes, don't you still? I stuffed the money into my mom's hand. Absolutely not. Don't even think about it. It would be more painful than death for me to marry G-Fan again, now that I've been given a second chance at life. As for the G family, it seems that without my intervention, they can ruin themselves just fine. 9. In my previous life, my relationship with G-Fan completely broke down after a night of drinking. I thought G-Fan had truly given up on Tong Yao. Half a year after we got married, G-Fan unexpectedly had dinner and drank with me that day. After a few drinks, I started crying, hugging my knees. At the best age of my 20s, I had become a cripple. G-Fan, uncharacteristically, gently wiped my tears away. Don't cry, you have me now. I looked at him through my tears, feeling that this gentle man in front of me was too good to be true. Under his sweet words, my last line of defense finally crumbled. I couldn't help but hug his neck and cry loudly. G-Fan, I can never wear high heels again. G-Fan stroked my back gently. It's okay, I know you got hurt saving me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now. I pulled away from his embrace and asked, really? After knowing G-Fan for 20 years? I knew how he looked when he was happy. I could tell that he wasn't happy after we got married, but G-Fan wiped away my tears one by one and swore it was true. What about you, Li Yuni? Do you like me? Or rather, have you always wanted to marry me? The feelings I had never revealed when I was young resurfaced. My heart was pounding so hard that I could hear it in my ears. Under his intense gaze, I said, yes, but then, I watched as the warmth in G-Fan's eyes faded, replaced by mockery. He stood up suddenly, putting distance between us, and pointed at me, calling me shameless. Just because you wanted to, you deliberately staged this whole thing to force me to marry you. I'll never be able to marry the woman I love. Are you satisfied, Li Yuni? I'm disgusted by the 20 years I spent living with you. The drunkenness vanished instantly, and I was left stunned, struggling to process what was happening. The sudden change was beyond my expectations. But my confusion only seemed like a joke to G-Fan. Stop pretending. If I hadn't done this, you'd never have told the truth. How long are you going to keep playing the victim, Li Yuni? Then, with a bang, G-Fan slammed the door and left. That night, I felt as if I had been crushed under his feet. Later, I found out that it was the day Tong Yao got engaged. She married an older man in the social circle and even had a stepson 3 years younger than her. 10. After G-Fan's mom tried to set us up, I completely gave the G family the cold shoulder. G-Fan's mom tried to talk to me privately several times. Each time, I used the most impatient tone to tell her that my wonderful life wasn't meant for taking care of a cripple. Finally, she gave up. After all, in this life, I've achieved some success, and I steer clear of anything unpleasant. After Qin Zi broke up with her boyfriend, we went back to the homestay the next day. A month passed peacefully, but then Qin Zi's ex-boyfriend showed up. That day, he drove away 2/3 of our customers. Qin Zi got so angry that she called the police, but the rogue said, "Officer, this is a love dispute. My ex-girlfriend owes me money and won't pay it back. I'm here to collect the debt. I'll leave as soon as I get the money." The first time, he was driven away. The second time, he was driven away again. But after several times, even the police were at a loss. This kind of law-savvy scoundrel is the hardest to deal with, since he hasn't hurt you, we can't arrest him. Qin Zi was so angry that she cried, you took over 100,000 yuan from me, and now you're turning around and blaming me. I'm telling you, no way. The rogue snorted coldly, pulled up a chair, and sat at the door. He clearly wasn't going anywhere until he got his money. For 3 consecutive days, our business was extremely poor. Just when Qin Zi was about to give in and pay the money, the security guards from my company finally arrived. They quickly dealt with the rogue, leaving him with bumps all over his head. Just as he was about to leave, Ji Fan showed up. The rogue, who was already bruised and battered, suddenly became arrogant. If it isn't young Master Ji Fan was already well known in our area, so it was normal for the rogue to recognize him. Young Master Ji, who got cuckolded by his fiancée, is here to play the hero. Maybe you could spare some change for me. 880,000 yuan would be great. Ji Fan's face turned red with anger as he told the rogue to get lost. Finally, he threatened, if you come here to cause trouble again, I'll beat you up every time I see you. But the rogue sneered, looked Ji Fan up and down, and said mockingly, Ji Fan, do you still think you're a rich second generation? Everyone knows what happened to your family, shameless thing. Ji Fan clenched his fists and remained silent, on the verge of outbreak. I couldn't be bothered with him and turned back into the homestay. After all, my money and my family's influence are my confidence. I don't need him to play the hero for me. 11. But I underestimated Ji Fan's audacity. He limped into the homestay, looking around with envy in his eyes. Finally, I asked coldly, does your parents know you're here? Ji Fan kept his head down and didn't answer. Ji Fan, don't tell me you just came to see my homestay. Looking at this taciturn man, my patience wore thin. He only spoke when I told him to leave. He said, Li Yuni, my family has gone bankrupt. Even though I had some inkling, I was still stunned when I heard Ji Fan say it himself. How could this happen? As far as I knew, the Ji family owned several stores in prime locations with high foot traffic. Those stores alone should have been enough for him to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Under my repeated questioning, Ji Fan, a grown man, actually broke down and cried in the homestay. In that moment, I felt as if I was looking at my past self through him, but Ji Fan in my previous life wasn't as patient as I was. Every time I cried, he would just slam the door and leave. Li Yuni, I regret it, I want you to come back. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. In my previous life, he said he regretted being with me. In this life, he says he regrets it and wants me back. There's no such thing as having it all. I was never really by your side, so what do you mean by come back? Tell me about the bankruptcy. After a while, Ji Fan reluctantly explained the whole story. 12. Ji Fan had hoped to marry me based on our past relationship, but after spending 188 million yuan, most of his family's money was gone. Just as he was trying to make money, he heard about an investment opportunity. It was said to be a sure thing. At first, Ji Fan was very cautious. But when he only invested 200,000 yuan and the other party kept sending him all kinds of things, delicacies, jewelry, he was blinded. He invested all of his family's savings and even took out tens of millions in loans. However, a month later, Ji Fan realized something was wrong. By the time he fully understood, the scammers were long gone. The Ji family's savings were completely drained. To pay off the loans, the banks took over their stores. Now, the 3 of them have no source of income. Li Yuni, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have ignored my mom's advice. If I had married you, our family wouldn't be in this mess. I frowned in disgust. This is just sheer stupidity on your part. It has nothing to do with who you marry. No. Ji Fan shook his head, and his tears landed on my arm. I wiped them off in disgust, only to hear him say, my dad asked around and found out that the scammers were related to Tang Yao's husband. They did this to get back at me. When I heard this, I almost wanted to applaud. I never expected Tang Yao to have such a scheme up her sleeve. The Ji family went bankrupt, and Aunt Ji was hospitalized. Although my mother had paid little attention to Aunt Ji in recent years, she finally went to the hospital to visit her. Not only that, but she also called me with a sigh, your Aunt Ji took good care of you when you were a child. She had a stroke out of anger. You should go and see her too. Anyway, we won't have much interaction with them in the future. A stroke. The situation was much more serious than I had imagined. Aunt Ji was completely paralyzed in the hospital bed and couldn't move. Her mouth was pouting to the right, and saliva was dripping down. When she saw me, Aunt Ji's tears immediately welled up. I couldn't understand what Aunt Ji was saying, but I didn't want to hear her talk about making me marry Ji Fan at this moment either. I politely and distantly put down the fruit basket. "Aunt, take good care of yourself, everything will be okay." My mother didn't say anything. In the end, she silently peeled an apple. Ji-fan's wrong choice had caused his whole family and himself to suffer. In my previous life, after I married Ji-fan, Uncle Ji and Aunt Ji were nice to me at first, but later, because I hadn't gotten pregnant, their attitude gradually turned cold. Plus, in this life, Ji-fan was lame. And they still wanted to tie me to him. I really couldn't bring myself to be nice to them. But my mother softened her heart. She paid some of Aunt G's hospitalization fees and hired a nurse to take care of her. When we got home, she was still in tears. "Tell me, what on earth happened to your Aunt G in this life? She used to feed the stray cats in the community. How could she end up like this in her old age? It's all that brat Ji-fan's fault." Uni. Can the money that was scammed be recovered? It was possible, but it was very difficult. This matter was deliberately targeted at Ji-fan by Tong Yao. The scammed money might be in her hands. Yuni, we can ignore that scoundrel Ji-fan, but your Aunt G's nursing fees in the future will be a huge amount. I lowered my eyes. I didn't care about Aunt G's nursing fees. But I suddenly wanted to meet that Tong Yao. 14. The husband that Tong Yao had latched onto was a big shot in our local area. I naturally wouldn't act recklessly, but hard work pays off. I discovered the secret between Tong Yao and her stepson. When we met in the coffee shop, Tong Yao sneered when she saw me. I wondered who it was. "You were my defeated opponent a few years ago. How dare you come and show off in front of me now?" I smiled but said nothing. I just raised my chin to signal her to sit down and talk. Tong Yao probably just wanted to see what tricks I, her defeated opponent, could come up with. But when she saw the photo on my phone clearly, she immediately sat up straight. "Li Yunyi, what do you mean?" I threw my phone on the table. "It means nothing. I just want to learn from you. How on earth did you get along so harmoniously with your stepson?" Tong Yao snatched my phone and tried to delete the photo. But the photo I showed her was the wallpaper of my phone, and she didn't even know the password. "Li Yunyi, aren't you being shameless? It's been so long since our business. Why are you here trying to show off? You just can't stand seeing me do well, right?" I raised my eyebrows. I really didn't want to see her do well, because my miserable experience in my previous life was somewhat related to her. In my previous life, I found out more than once that the two of them were flirting privately after our marriage, but the life Tong Yao was living now really wasn't considered good in my eyes. Her husband had yellow teeth and was a lecher. People in the circle knew that he had some special perverted preferences and liked to torture people the most. Her stepson was also not normal. The photo made me feel disgusted, so I got straight to the point. "The money of the Ji family was scammed by your people. Give the money back." When I said this, Tong Yao laughed. She laughed so hard that she leaned back and forth and exaggeratedly wiped the tears of laughter from her eyes. "After all that, is it still for that idiot, Li Yunyi? Seriously, after all this time, you still like him? Ha 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 ha, you've never seen a good man in your life." I frowned. "You can say other things about me, but I can't stand it when you say I'm doing this for Ji-fan." 15. I crossed my arms and looked at her. I asked sincerely, "Tong Yao, is there only men in your head in this life?" Tong Yao wasn't ashamed but rather proud. "You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Of course, you can pretend to be high and mighty. What's wrong with me climbing up the social ladder through men? I hate you rich people the most. You're full of the smell of money, yet you still accuse us of being shameless for the sake of money. Li Yunyi, so what if you're rich? You still lost to me, didn't you?" I smiled and looked at her leisurely. "Since you won, why are you still going to great lengths and using unscrupulous means to deal with his family? It's all because of your wounded pride." Tong Yao's expression froze for a moment, and then she gritted her teeth and warned me. "I destroyed the Ji family, and I can destroy your family too." I tapped the screen of my phone unhurriedly. The wallpaper appeared in front of Tong Yao again. I smiled and retorted, "Transfer the money to my card by 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. If you can't, I'll show this wallpaper to others." After saying that, I got up and left. When I passed by Tong Yao, I whispered in her ear, "Wasn't Ji-fan someone you went to great lengths to get? Why treat your former sugar daddy like this? Do you consider him your dark history?" A few steps away, I heard the sound of a cup being smashed behind me. I curled the corners of my lips. She had married into a wealthy family, yet she still couldn't keep her cool. She was nothing special. 16. The next day, I received the money. I casually transferred the money to my mother. "Should we give it to your Uncle G?" I smiled. "Mom, after giving the money to them, let's not care about them anymore. We're not the same kind of people as them." My mother was silent for a long time, and finally, she nodded. "Okay." Aunt G was lying in the hospital bed now. Could Uncle G take care of her consistently? I firmly believed that a family with a proper upbringing couldn't raise a scoundrel like G Fan, but what did it have to do with us? In the future, we would all just be strangers. Later, my mother transferred the money and then came to my newly expanded homestay with my father to help out. It was also to stay away from the G family. 2 years later, Chin Z suddenly said cautiously that when she went home to visit her parents, she accidentally met G Fan, to make a living. He went to work in a restaurant, but you know, our hometown is a small place. As soon as the news of G Fan's job spread, my asshole ex went to make fun of him. I heard that G Fan was fired by the boss within a few days of each job because the small business couldn't withstand the harassment of those thugs who were watching him like hawks every day. He was forced to beg under the overpass. I nodded. I didn't feel anything inside. Compared to my previous life when I was forced to commit suicide by him, this was nothing. But I was a little curious about one thing. Did his parents completely abandon him? Chin Z hesitated for a moment. The car ran over the child's ankle, causing a comminuted fracture. But, his mother seemed to have died half a year ago due to improper care. This ending was within my expectations, but when I met Chin Z's gaze, I asked her, "Do you think I'm too heartless and unfeeling?" Chin Z frowned. After a moment, she shook her head. Everything that happened to the G family was their own doing. What does it have to do with you? I nodded and turned around to continue making tea, but Chin Z chattered behind me. Yuni, you mustn't think that way. Feeling sorry for that scumbag will bring you bad luck for a lifetime. Yes, that's right, but fortunately, in this life, we were all far away from scumbags and had a new life. Story 2. It's the 4th year of my secret relationship with my uncle, who is a family friend. On my 22nd birthday, he promised to get the marriage certificate with me and make our relationship public, but that day, I waited in the restaurant until the clock struck 12. Instead, I received a video of him passionately kissing a hot girl. I knew that girl. Her name was Chin Xia, my senior sister, and a sex addiction sufferer. It was the same in my previous life. After receiving the video, I went crazy and rushed to the bar to ask Liang Zhe for an explanation, but he just smiled and casually pulled me into his arms, whispering softly, "Jia, I've already given all my love to you. We shouldn't be too greedy, should we?" That night, I exposed the fact that I was in a relationship with Liang Zhe. I originally thought that even if I became infamous, I would go down with him, but I underestimated Liang Zhe. With just one sentence, "Jia, you're not well." Everyone said that I had delusional disorder. Later, Liang Zhe imprisoned me in this Xiangshan villa. He always tried to persuade me, saying, "Jia, sex and love can be separated." Finally, one night, I set the entire villa on fire. But I never expected that. I was reborn and returned to the day of my 22nd birthday. 1. Student Jiang, are you sure there's no problem with the itinerary in 3 days? I glanced at the message sent by my senior brother Lin Guannan. Just after I replied, "No problem," there came the sound of the door opening downstairs. It was Liang Zhe who had come back. He was also accompanied by Chin Xia, my senior sister. She was still wearing the bright and enchanting red short skirt from the video she sent me last night. Her long wavy hair was draped over her shoulders. The two of them sat down on the sofa. Chin Xia's fair and beautiful left foot was placed on Liang Zhe's legs. She was seducing him intentionally or unintentionally. Liang Zhe slightly frowned, but he just said softly, "Don't act like a slut here." Chin Xia wasn't annoyed. She smiled and hooked her hands around Liang Zhe's neck. "Mr. Liang, I've sprained my foot. Can't you be a bit gentler?" Liang Zhe sneered, raised his right hand, and forcefully pinched Chin Xia's chin. "Do you think you're Rujia? Chin Xia, you'd better recognize your own status." As the last syllable fell, Chin Xia straightened her body. Liang Zhe's fingertips slid across her chin and neck. Finally, he grabbed her neck with one hand, leaned close to her ear, and said, "Ask the family doctor to take a look at your sprained ankle. If there's nothing wrong, leave here. If Rujia sees you, you'll bear the consequences." After saying the warning and threatening words, Liang Zhe pushed Chin Xia away, slowly unbuttoned the cuffs of his shirt, rolled up his sleeves to his arms, and then entered the kitchen, leaving Chin Xia where she was. Chin Xia stared at Liang Zhe's back and clenched her fists unwillingly. When she raised her eyes, she saw me standing at the corner of the 2nd floor. There was jealousy and resentment in her eyes. If I hadn't been reborn, I think at this moment, I would have already had a fierce argument with Liang Zhe and Chin Xia. Instead of just watching it as a play, the moment I was reborn yesterday, the video in my hand happened to freeze on the picture of them passionately kissing. At that time, I still had lingering hatred and thought about strangling Liang Zhe to death. but reason prevailed. In my previous life, with just one sentence from him, Rujia's mental state is a bit abnormal. The doctor said she has delusional disorder. Everything collapsed overnight. I became the pervert in everyone's mouth who was shameless and delusional about her own uncle. Everyone spurned me, and I was removed from the family register. Finally, I was secretly imprisoned in the Xiangshan villa by Liang Zhe. The Liang family has deep-rooted influence in Beijing. I couldn't fight against Liang Zhe, so, in this life, I just want to leave Liang Zhe and live a stable life. 2. Qin Xia still didn't dare to provoke Liang Zhe directly. After the family doctor sprayed medicine for her, she left, but the strange number on my phone sent me 2 more text messages. This time, Qin Xia didn't hide her identity anymore. She said frankly, "Jiang Rujia, do you really think Liang Zhe loves you? A prodigal son is a prodigal son. Do you really hope he can settle down? You've really stayed in the ivory tower for too long. You're so stupid." I couldn't help but be lost in thought. The corners of my lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Liang Zhe is a family friend of my mother. 10 years ago, the female secretary my father was having an affair with got pregnant and came to my mother to ask for a proper status. It became known to everyone. My mother was so angry that she vomited blood. Finally, she couldn't bear the betrayal and jumped off a building to commit suicide. After her death, my father, filled with remorse, forced the secretary's child to have an abortion. While they were arguing in the car, they both died. Overnight, I became an orphan, and my uncles and aunts all kept their distance from me. It was Liang Zhe who took care of my mother's funeral and brought me back to the Liang family, for a full 12 years. At that time, Liang Zhe was a well-known prodigal son in the circle, with countless women around him. But after he started raising me, he restrained all his temper, cut off all his romantic relationships, quit smoking, and even got rid of his dissolute habit of always getting drunk in bars. He showed me his best side. As long as I was around, even for the gatherings organized by his friends, Liang Zhe would greet them in advance, saying, "Don't smoke during the gathering. Replace all the alcohol with juice, and don't swear either." His friends were always amused by this, but they still did as he said. Everyone knew that I was the one Liang Zhe protected, his most precious little niece. No one dared to provoke me, no one dared to offend me, and no one dared to like me either, until I turned 18. On my coming-of-age ceremony, Liang Zhe gave me a beautiful pink diamond necklace, which was worth a fortune and was unique. But I still couldn't get excited about it. Liang Zhe also noticed my mood and thought that someone had bullied me. He checked all my whereabouts of that day countless times, asked the bodyguard who was secretly following me, and questioned the servants in the villa. When he still couldn't find anything wrong, he frowned. He symbolically knocked on the door of my bedroom. When he pushed the door open and saw me lying on the bed with a flushed face, he was slightly taken aback. 3. It was already past 3 o'clock in the morning at that time. Liang Zhe snatched my phone away. After seeing the chat records between me and a senior with a cold face, a gloomy aura emanated from his whole body. I added the senior after getting to know him in a club. He wasn't as good-looking as Liang Zhe, but he was very interesting. Every night, he would tell me all kinds of little stories to make me happy. Even when he saw the fallen leaves on the road, he would share it with me. He was just confessing his love to me. After Liang Zhe read it, he was so angry that he laughed. He blocked the senior directly with smooth movements. "Jiang Rujia, you actually like someone like him." I don't know what stimulated me that day. I scolded Liang Zhe for a long time, scolding him for his strong control, for meddling in my affairs, scolding him for blocking all my chances of having a romantic relationship. By the end, my voice was choked with sobs, and tears fell uncontrollably. Liang Zhe's whole face turned dark. He put his hands on my shoulders and asked through gritted teeth, "Do you want to fall in love?" I was too scared to answer with red eyes, but later, Liang Zhe started chasing me, secretly. In the spring festival when I was 18, Liang Zhe and I got together secretly, naturally. To the outside world, we were still in the relationship of uncle and niece. Behind closed doors, we sank into love soberly. It was so easy to fall in love with Liang Zhe. That year, for my New Year's wish, Liang Zhe promised me, when he took power, when he had the ability to block all the gossip for me, he would make our relationship public and tell the whole world, "Liang Zhe likes Jiang Rujia." But later, all the hardships I endured were brought to me by him. 4. "Jiejia, why did you get up so early today?" Liang Zhe's gentle voice pulled me back from my memories. He looked at me, and his beautiful peach blossom eyes were filled with deep affection. He had just come out of the kitchen. The fragrance of the cooked porridge had already wafted out. As Liang Zhe put down the sleeves he had rolled up, he walked up to me and habitually pulled me into his arms, with his chin resting on my shoulder. Something urgent came up at the company yesterday, and I missed our Jejje's birthday, so I got up early to cook porridge for Jejje as an apology. I'll rearrange the best restaurant and celebrate with Jejje again in a few days. Is that okay? He whispered in my ear. His voice was so beautiful. In bed, he was also so gentle and tender, worrying that I would be in pain and afraid that I would cry. He treated me like a delicate doll, afraid that if he used too much force, I would break. So, in the past 4 years, he had never truly been satisfied. So, in the corners I didn't know about, he vented his sexual desires on another person. Wildly and horribly, I always remember, on the day I exposed Liang Zhe's true face, he was sitting in the booth of the bar, smiling casually, his slender fingers held a cigarette, and the tip was still glowing red. His gaze fell on Qin Xia. He pressed the cigarette but hard on her thigh. She let out a cry of pain, but her eyes were filled with lust. I took a step back in shock, but Liang Zhe still smiled and said softly, "I'm really unlucky, Jejje found out. I pretended for 12 years. And now it's all back to square one." He walked closer to me. He said that he loved me the most and only me. Qin Xia was just a worthless thing and wouldn't become an obstacle between us. He said, "Rujia, sex and love can be separated." He couldn't bear to do those dirty things to me, but the evil factors were screaming, and he couldn't control it. So, he gave his sexual desires to Qin Xia. Qin Xia was a sex addiction sufferer. They took what they needed from each other. I didn't want to listen and couldn't accept it. I smashed all the wine bottles on the table like a madman. Liang Zhe just stood aside and let me vent, until I was tired and sat down in a daze. Liang Zhe took out a tissue and gently wiped the tears on my face with pity in his eyes. He said, "Jejje, what else are you not satisfied with? My heart is all yours. We shouldn't be too greedy, should we?" That night, I exposed the fact that Liang Zhe had cheated on me during our relationship. I knew I couldn't touch Liang Zhe, but even if I became infamous, I wanted to drag him down with me, but I never thought that he would ask the doctor to issue a certificate stating that I had delusional disorder. He said that he and Qin Xia were in a legitimate boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. He said that he didn't measure his actions properly and gave me room for fantasy. Overnight, Liang Zhe was cleared of all blame, and I was sent to a mental hospital as a mentally ill person. I underwent 3 months of hypnosis and electroshock therapy. I even doubted myself, that I was really sick, but no. After the commotion died down, Liang Zhe secretly took me out of the mental hospital and imprisoned me in the Xiangshan villa. He asked me, "Jejje, have you learned your lesson?" Only then did I know that those days were just a small punishment he gave me, a punishment for being disobedient. 5. Seeing that I didn't speak for a long time, Liang Zhe smiled helplessly. "It seems that Jejje is still angry. What should I do then? How about letting Jejje beat me up to let off some steam?" I just saw Qin Xia. Upon hearing this, a trace of displeasure flashed in Liang Zhe's eyes, but he quickly hid it. His beautiful fingers played with my hair. "The company has a project recently, and the research direction is related to sex addiction. Qin Xia is one of the experimental subjects. We worked through the night last night, and she wasn't in a good state. She sent me back." He said it casually. I couldn't help but smile mockingly, but in the end, I just replied with an The next second, Liang Zhe's private phone rang inappropriately. As expected, it should be Qin Xia, but he didn't seem to care. After calmly rejecting the call, he smiled and was about to lead me downstairs when holding my hand. The phone rang again, over and over. Liang Zhe frowned. His face darkened slightly, and he was obviously a bit impatient. Finally, he used the excuse of serving me porridge and entered the kitchen to answer the phone. It was noisy on the other side, but I could still vaguely hear, "Qin Xia, can Liang Zhe satisfy your strong sex addiction? Why don't we play together? Mr. Liang, save me. You want Liang Zhe to save you? Are you crazy? Qin Xia, he's accompanying his little princess right now. No, please, don't." Qin Xia's humble cries for help and screams came out of the receiver. Immediately after, Liang Zhe clenched his fist and smashed it on the countertop with a bang. He hung up the phone, and his expression was extremely ugly. He might not like Qin Xia that much, but his possessiveness and control are stronger than anyone else's. He will never allow others to covet what belongs to him, even if it's just a plaything. I quietly walked from outside the kitchen to the dining table, pulled out a chair, and sat down. When Liang Zhe came out of the kitchen with the porridge, he suppressed his emotions and had a smile on his face. "Jejje, you can have your breakfast first. There's something at the company that I need to deal with. I'll be back soon." As he said that, he gently rubbed my head. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, I stopped him. Uncle, when I was 18, you promised me that we would make our relationship public and get the marriage certificate when I was 22, were you lying to me? I smiled at him, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Every day after I was imprisoned in the Xiangshan villa in my previous life, I kept asking myself that if I hadn't discovered Liang Zhe's dirty side, would we have lived our whole lives like an ordinary couple, treating each other with respect? Liang Zhe was slightly stunned, but in the end, he still didn't give me an answer. Qin Xia called again. He left a sentence, "Don't think too much," pretending to be calm, and then picked up his coat and left. I lowered my eyes and stared at the bowl of porridge in front of me, which was still steaming. I couldn't help but smile mockingly. How could there be someone who could separate sex and love so clearly? Not long after, Qin Xia sent me another message. Jiang Rujia, you see, Liang Zhe still chose me. You and Liang Zhe are not the same kind of people. You should be grateful that I let you see his true face. If I had understood this earlier in my previous life, why did I have to get entangled with such a bad person? Fortunately, it's not too late in this life. The reminder for the plane ticket that Lin Guannan booked for me also popped up. It was a ticket to the United States in 3 days. 6. When Liang Zhe arrived at the nightclub, Qin Xia was being pressed down on the bar table by 2 men. Her skirt was torn open with a large hole, and she would expose herself if she wasn't careful. When she looked at Liang Zhe with tears in her eyes, he just sneered. Her clumsy trick was seen through by him at a glance. Liang Zhe hooked his finger. Immediately, a row of bodyguards appeared behind him. The 2 men quickly let go of the hands that were holding Qin Xia down and swallowed nervously. Everyone in Beijing knew the reputation of Liang Zhe. He was ruthless and cruel in his methods. Mr. Liang. We were just joking with Miss Qin. The man's legs were shaking with fear. Liang Zhe gave a low laugh. Just a joke. The 2 men nodded repeatedly, afraid that if they were a second slower, they would die a horrible death. Qin Xia's eyes were red at the corners, and she looked at Liang Zhe helplessly. Mr. Liang, save me. Liang Zhe put his index finger to his lips. The bodyguards behind him immediately understood and pulled the 2 men into the next room. Ignoring their pleas for mercy, until the heart-rending voices came from the next room. It was Miss Qin who told us to do this. She paid us. Mr. Liang, we were wrong and we won't dare to do it again. Mr. Liang. Liang Zhe still stood there towering over them. When he looked down at Qin Xia with a disdainful gaze, her face was already deathly pale, and her thin body was shaking uncontrollably. Mr. Liang, I didn't. She said in a trembling voice. Qin Xia, I warned you. Don't play such useless tricks on me. He sneered and curled his lips. His well-defined fingers took out the phone from Qin Xia's bag, after opening it with ease. When he saw the messages Qin Xia sent to Jiang Rujia, his expression turned gloomy, and an extremely dangerous storm brewed in his deep black eyes like ink. No wonder he always felt that Jiang Rujia's mood was a bit abnormal today. No wonder Jiang Rujia suddenly asked him that question when he was leaving home. He loved Jiang Rujia. So he gave her his heart and his best side. He was afraid that Jiang Rujia would know about his disgusting sexual perversions and his promiscuous past, so he was extremely cautious and walked on thin ice, pretending for 12 years. He was already preparing to propose to Jiang Rujia. He had already paved all the roads for their future, and even the ring and wedding dress he designed with his own hands were almost finished. Now, Qin Xia had ruined all of this. The atmosphere in the private room was oppressive. When Qin Xia tried to get closer to Liang Zhe, he grabbed her neck tightly with one hand, his eyes bloodshot. Qin Xia, you really deserve to die. Liang Zhe's strength was great. Qin Xia's face turned red from being choked, and she mumbled words of mercy. She begged Liang Zhe to spare her, with tears in her eyes and a sobbing voice. Mr. Liang, I was too greedy. I wanted more. I was wrong. I will explain it to Miss Fong. I will tell her that I hired people to stage all of this on my own. Mr. Liang, please, spare me. After a long time, when Qin Xia was almost out of breath and on the verge of suffocation, Liang Zhe slowly released his hand in satisfaction, threw her onto the sofa beside him, and then loosened his tie. This is your last chance. Don't let me find out that you provoke Rujia again. After saying that, he pinched Qin Xia's face with one hand and tore open her top with the other. Like a wild beast releasing its nature, he took what he wanted without caring about the life or death of the person beneath him. 7. As soon as I arrived at the laboratory, I saw Lin Guannan. He was wearing a white work uniform and standing in front of the experimental equipment, recording the data. He was my senior brother, 2 years older than me. He was a well-known cold and aloof campus heartthrob in the school. He came from a scholarly family, and he received a full scholarship every year. During his 2 years of postgraduate study, 3 of his papers were published in top SCI journals, and he was considered an outstanding figure in the field of biology. After Lin Guannan finished recording the data and looked up to see me, he was slightly taken aback. After pushing his gold-rimmed glasses, he finished dealing with the final work before walking up to me. "You're early." "It's not early, the time is just right. At 8 o'clock in the evening." The tutor booked a place in a restaurant in Beijing and organized a gathering specifically to see me and Lin Guannan off. A month ago, a biological research project was launched in the United States, with a total of 2 places available. It was certain that Lin Guannan would participate, but the remaining place hadn't been decided for a long time, and the application I submitted hadn't been approved either. Until yesterday, Lin Guannan waited for me outside the restaurant all night. Then I knew that the place was for me. However, it was rejected by Liang Zhe. He intercepted my application, and the tutor didn't receive it. And for the email messages that the tutor originally sent to me, Liang Zhe replied on my behalf. When Lin Guannan showed me the screenshots, I was almost stunned in place in shock. "Teacher, I'm sorry. I'm very happy to have your support, but I'm sorry that I can't go to the United States. I'm going to get married to my boyfriend after graduation. So I may not be able to spend time in the laboratory." The tutor sent a long message to persuade me. He hoped that I could think clearly and that there was no need to give up my ideals for marriage. Liang Zhe still replied, "Teacher, thank you for the opportunity, but I love my boyfriend very much." After reading it, I was filled with anger and wished I could strangle Liang Zhe. What right did he have to decide my future for me? If it wasn't for Lin Guannan's appreciation of my talent, who was half a teacher to me, he wouldn't have gone to great lengths to find me. Lin Guannan also wanted to know an answer. He knew that I could stay up all night for accurate experimental data, and that I could search through all the data in the library day and night to publish a paper in a top journal, and even got locked in the library by mistake for a whole night, so he didn't believe it. That I would reject participating in this project that could enhance my self-worth for the so-called marriage. What's more, the project wasn't indefinite. In my previous life, Lin Guannan had also looked for me, but at that time, I was immersed in the pain of being betrayed by Liang Zhe and turned a blind eye. Fortunately, I didn't miss it this time. 8. What I didn't expect was that I would meet Liang Zhe and Qin Xia in the restaurant. When she was arm in arm with Liang Zhe and walking towards us, I was still walking and discussing the experiment he did just now with Lin Guannan, with a smile on my face. When we mentioned the complex data, Lin Guannan frowned. When I couldn't help but raise my hand to tease him a bit, Liang Zhe's gentle voice came, "Jia." Suddenly, I stopped in my tracks and looked up to meet Liang Zhe's eyes, which were filled with complex emotions. There was a momentary silence. Qin Xia quietly withdrew her hand and took a step back silently, maintaining a safe distance from Liang Zhe. However, the strangulation mark on her neck was particularly obvious, as if someone had strangled her neck with something. After a long confrontation, Liang Zhe was the first to break the silence. He took a few steps and walked up to me. When he was about to gently tuck the hair scattered in front of my ear behind my ear in an affectionate gesture, I couldn't help but take a small step back. His hand stopped in midair, and a moment of surprise flashed in his eyes, but soon he put on a casual smile again. "You're having a meal with your classmates, why didn't you tell your uncle?" I replied calmly. "I was afraid of affecting uncle's work." Liang Zhe smiled softly, and his inquiring gaze fell on Lin Guannan beside me. "Jia. There are a lot of people with ill intentions outside, you have to keep your eyes open, don't be so naive as to be deceived." Lin Guannan curled his lips and sneered. Both the Liang family and the Lin family used to live in the same compound. They often saw each other. According to seniority, Lin Guannan should call Liang Zhe uncle, but he was never afraid of Liang Zhe. The backgrounds of the two were evenly matched. "Rujia, I'll give you the same advice. There are always some crazy people in this world who like to try to control you and possess you in the name of doing what's good for you. So, don't trust anyone easily. Don't trust anyone, no matter how close the relationship is. What do you think, Mr. Liang?" As Lin Guannan spoke, he looked directly into Liang Zhe's eyes without hesitation. The smile on Liang Zhe's lips disappeared instantly, and his expression turned gloomy. In the past, because I loved Liang Zhe, I regarded all this control and possessiveness as the affection between lovers, and I even enjoyed it. Because of this, I could be very sure that Liang Zhe loved me too. In this way, he wouldn't cheat and wouldn't become another version of my father. But I never expected that, in Liang Zhe's eyes, extreme love and crazy lust could be completely separated. Finally, the tutor arrived. The two people who were at loggerheads finally suppressed their emotions. Liang Zhe insisted on having the meal with us. Lin Guannan didn't refuse either, but everyone was sensible enough to keep silent about the fact that this meal was a farewell dinner. 9. The reason why Liang Zhe secretly rejected the place for me was very simple. The Liang family's status was deeply rooted, their grandparents were all high-ranking government officials, and their entry and exit were strictly regulated. As long as I went abroad, he couldn't continue to treat me like a caged bird in Beijing and control me in the name of love. This meal was eaten in an oppressive atmosphere. Liang Zhe regarded the others as air. His slender and beautiful fingers slowly peeled the shrimps and picked the crabs for me. His actions were considerate and gentle. Some classmates whispered, "It's true that Mr. Liang treats Jiang Rugia like a little princess as rumored." I thought it was all just rumors. Upon hearing this, the gloom on Liang Zhe's face finally dissipated a bit, and the corners of his lips curled slightly. He put the peeled shrimp into my bowl again. Lin Guannan raised his eyes and glanced at me with a calm expression. I felt an inexplicable sense of pressure. Finally, I made an excuse to go to the bathroom. I just wanted to get some fresh air. But as soon as I went in, Qin Xia followed. She quietly locked the door of the bathroom. When I heard the sound and turned my head, before I could react, Qin Xia slapped me hard, and then pulled my hair back. I was forced to tilt my head back in pain. And tears welled up in my eyes instantly. "Qin Xia, are you crazy?" Qin Xia's emotions were obviously agitated. She roared at me with her eyes wide open. "I am crazy, Jiang Rugia. I don't understand. Even though Liang Zhe is like this, why don't you leave him? Why are you still lingering around? Why? Do you know that he had sex with me again today? He said he likes having sex with me. Do you know that only I can satisfy him? And you, what can you bring to him?" Her voice suddenly rose sharply, and her eyes were filled with unwillingness and resentment. When I first met Qin Xia, she wasn't like this. She was a child from the mountains and a student my mother sponsored before her death. After my mother passed away, I never let the sponsorship for her stop. At the freshman orientation of the university, she recognized me. At that time, she was sunny and bright. And she was the top student and the most beautiful girl in the acting department of Peking University. In her sophomore year, she was invited by a film director to join a film crew. But it was from that time on, Qin Xia changed. In my previous life, Qin Xia also kept provoking me like this. Later, I found out, the director didn't invite her to the crew but gave her to Liang Zhe. Since then, she became Liang Zhe's exclusive plaything. At first, Qin Xia resisted, but gradually, she was also attracted by the luxurious and indulgent life. As long as she could make Liang Zhe happy, with a wave of Liang Zhe's hand, the money he gave her was more than she could earn in a lifetime of hard work. Qin Xia indulged in it. Her desires grew bigger and bigger. She delusionally wanted to replace me and naively hoped to become Liang Zhe's wife. But Liang Zhe, in his heart, he always only cared about me. "What does your business have to do with me? Can you not drag me into your disgusting affairs?" I frowned and tried to break free from Qin Xia's hand. She suddenly gave a hard shake and pushed me again. "Has nothing to do with you, Jiang Rugia. Liang Zhe likes you. He's going to marry you. Do you know that? I'm about to lose Liang Zhe." My lower back directly hit the sink, and I couldn't help but groan in pain. "Qin Xia, do you like being someone's dog so much?" Qin Xia was stunned for a moment, and then she curled her lips mockingly. "But it's Liang Zhe, Jiang Rugia, we're different. Without Liang Zhe, you can still stand at the top of the pyramid, but without Liang Zhe, I'm just an ant that anyone can step on." As she spoke, a touch of sadness slowly appeared in her eyes. "So, Jiang Rugia, give Liang Zhe to me." "Okay." Qin Xia's eyes suddenly turned red and were gradually filled with tears. Big, crystal clear tears rolled down her distorted cheeks. The next moment, she lost control of her emotions and knelt heavily on the ground. "Miss Jiang, I'm begging you. I can't live without Liang Zhe. Please." I pursed my lips and furrowed my brows. Just as I was about to speak, Qin Xia seemed to hear the hurried footsteps outside. She raised her hand and slapped herself hard again and again. "Miss Jiang, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to destroy your relationship with Mr. Liang. I was possessed by evil. I hired people to fake those videos and photos. Miss Jiang, can you forgive me this time? I won't dare to do it again." Suddenly, I stood there in a daze. The door of the bathroom was kicked open. It was Liang Zhe. He quickly walked up to me and completely ignored Qin Xia, who was kneeling on the ground and crying. When he saw the red mark on my left face, his brows suddenly furrowed tightly. His eyes were full of worry. "Stay away from her in the future. When Qin Xia has an attack, her emotions will be unstable and she's prone to anger. I'm afraid you'll get accidentally hurt." I looked up at Liang Zhe. At the moment our eyes met, my heart was filled with mixed emotions. Liang Zhe's act was too real. If Qin Xia hadn't gone crazy first, I would almost be unable to tell what was real and what was fake. At this moment, I just wanted to leave Beijing and Liang Zhe as soon as possible. 10. In the following 2 days, Liang Zhe almost spent all his time with me, as if he was making up for his absence on my birthday. It seemed that he was also planning something. I didn't deliberately show any dissatisfaction either. I accepted all the kindness he showed me. Maybe I was too well behaved. Liang Zhe seemed to sense a vague uneasiness. He often woke up from nightmares at night, and then he would always gently hold me in his arms and murmur in my ear, "Jie, you won't leave me, right? Everyone who approaches me has a purpose. Only Jie truly cares about me, right? Jie, I only have you. I love you the most. Let's be together forever, okay?" I pretended to be still asleep and didn't respond. Liang Zhe held me even tighter. With a sick and paranoid voice, he said, "Jie, I love you. I would even die as long as you're happy, but you can't stop loving me." I can't understand Liang Zhe. If he really loved me, how could he have allowed me to bear the infamous reputation of falling in love with my uncle and being shameless in my previous life? How could he have been willing to send me to a mental hospital to be tortured? He said he loved me in a high-sounding manner. In fact, the only person he loves is himself. Soon, the third day arrived. There were still 5 hours until the flight to the United States. Ling Guanan sent me a message. "Do you need me to pick you up?" I stood at the corner of the second floor and looked down. Liang Zhe was coming out of the study and planning to go out. In the past 2 days, he had been suppressing his desires. Afraid of scaring me, every time, he only stopped at a kiss, just tasting it slightly, not having been fully satisfied and released with me. His emotions gradually became irritable. When he looked up and saw me, his hand that was putting on the windbreaker stopped. He curved his lips and smiled. "Just like every time in the past, I'm going to the company and will be back soon. I'll make the braised fish that Jie likes for dinner tonight, okay?" His voice was gentle and pleasant. Unfortunately, it was another complete lie. After that day, Qin Xia still kept harassing me, sending all kinds of intimate photos of her and Liang Zhe, some of which were extremely explicit. Her white and tender body was almost covered with crisscrossing whip marks. At first, she just provoked me as usual. Later, she started going crazy and humbly begging, "Jiang Rujia, I'm begging you. I can't live without Liang Zhe. Liang Zhe hasn't come to see me for 2 days. I can give up everything, but I can't live without Liang Zhe. I'll die without him. I'm having an attack. Rujia, I'm begging you. I only want to be with Liang Zhe. Just Liang Zhe, please." But just now, her provocative message came again. "Jiang Rujia, look, it's only been 2 days. As long as I crook my finger, Liang Zhe can't resist. He and I are the most suitable for each other." Seeing that I didn't respond for a long time, Liang Zhe slightly frowned. Just as he was about to walk towards me, I calmly raised the corners of my lips. "Okay, uncle." Liang Zhe smiled indulgently and helplessly, stopping in his tracks. "Jie has been quite fond of calling me uncle these 2 days. You weren't willing to before." I replied indifferently. "People always change. Uncle will change, and so will I." Suddenly, Liang Zhe was stunned, and his eyes were filled with complex emotions. His thin lips opened and closed, as if he was about to say something, but I spoke first. "No matter how we change, I'm still me, and uncle is still uncle, right?" After saying that, I smiled and looked at Liang Zhe. Liang Zhe sighed. "Jie is still so naughty. Stop talking tongue twisters. Go back to your room and rest for a while. I'll be back soon. Goodbye, uncle." I still smiled, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. The moment the villa door closed, my smile faded. "Liang Zhe, I hope we never see each other again." 11. On the way out of the Shanshan villa, the uneasiness in Liang Zhe's heart became more and more obvious. In the past 2 days, although Jiang Rujia was by his side, he could still vaguely feel that there was something between them. Finally, he sent a message to his assistant, "Check all the people and things that Rujia has come into contact with during this period." When he arrived at the nightclub, Qin Xia was wearing a revealing bunny girl outfit, kneeling on the ground with a blushing face, waiting for him. Her eyes were filled with explicit desire. She was almost driven crazy by her sex addiction. She had thought about solving it by herself and even considered finding another man, but she didn't do it. She was afraid that if she got dirty, Liang Zhe would really abandon her completely. "Mr. Liang." When Qin Xia saw Liang Zhe appear, she seemed to have grasped at a straw. Liang Zhe curled his lips and smiled softly. He slowly unbuttoned his clothes, rolled up his sleeves, and then bent down to pinch Qin Xia's chin. did you hit Rugia in the restaurant last time? His voice was very soft. Upon hearing this, Qin Xia couldn't stop trembling. I didn't. I just explained to Miss Jiang about harassing her. I didn't dare to touch her. The next moment, Liang Zhe directly slapped Qin Xia. With great force, she was knocked to the side, and finger marks immediately appeared on her face. Qin Xia, just because I didn't mention it doesn't mean I don't know. Rugia is my bottom line. After saying that, Qin Xia cried and kept saying that she didn't dare. Liang Zhe grabbed her neck and pressed her onto the bed, violently venting his desires. He was dirty and despicable, but he couldn't taint Jiang Rugia. In his heart, Jiang Rugia was a little princess who should live in an ivory tower and never come into contact with such disgusting things in her life. He also couldn't let her know about his unsightly side. Suddenly, the assistant's phone rang inappropriately. Liang Zhe impatiently pulled himself out of his lust and picked up the phone with one hand. Qin Xia underneath him was still trying to please him and attempting to make him hang up the phone. He curled his lips and smiled. He originally wanted to reject the call, but accidentally slid to the answer button. Qin Xia's undisguised voice sounded at the same time as the assistant's voice. Mr. Liang, Miss Jiang has bought a plane ticket to the United States. Suddenly, Liang Zhe's smile froze on his lips. The assistant continued. In 10 minutes, Miss Jiang's flight will take off. Accompanying her is also the eldest son of the Lin family, Lin Guannan. As the assistant finished speaking the last word, Liang Zhe's eyes turned blood red. He kicked Qin Xia away like a madman. Stop Rugia immediately, otherwise, I'll make all of you die. The assistant quickly agreed. And the phone call was hung up. His mind could hardly think, and he was on the verge of collapse. All he could think of were Jiang Rugia's smiling eyes this morning. No wonder he always had a sense of being distant. It turned out that his Jejia had been planning to leave him. How could she? How dare she? Just thinking that he would lose Jiang Rugia in the future, his heart felt as if it was being gripped by a big hand, and a dull pain came over him. Qin Xia was frightened by Liang Zhe. But she still summoned up the courage to move closer to him and said coquettishly, Mr. Liang, you still have me. I will never leave you. She wanted to pull Liang Zhe back into depravity. Liang Zhe's eyes were cold. The assistant then sent him all the details of Jiang Rugia's itinerary in the past few days, including what happened in the restaurant that day. That day, the waiter had diarrhea. After hearing the commotion outside, he secretly recorded the conversation. When Qin Xia's voice came from Liang Zhe's phone, she was immediately stunned, as if her soul had been taken away. Do you know that he had sex with me again today? He said he likes having sex with me. Do you know that only I can satisfy him? Liang Zhe played this sentence repeatedly. At the same time, he received a timed email from Jiang Rugia, naked photos and provocative words. Liang Zhe completely lost his mind. The pain in his heart burned like a fire. All his hard work and pretending vanished in an instant, and all his hopes and beauty turned into nothing. Qin Xia still wanted to explain. It's not, Mr. Liang, it's not me. Liang Zhe supported his forehead and smiled bitterly, his body full of hostility. Do you know that by tomorrow night at the latest, the ring I designed myself can be put on Rugia's finger? Do you know that the castle I designed and built will be completed next week? Do you know how long I've been preparing to propose to Rugia? He was so angry that his whole body was shaking. On the day he and Jiang Rugia confirmed their relationship when he was 18, he started preparing and planning. He had been waiting for the right moment. He didn't deliberately stand Jiang Rugia up on her birthday, he just wanted to give her a bigger surprise, but unexpectedly, he underestimated Qin Xia and the jealousy of women. Qin Xia, now that Rugia is gone, do you think you can take her place? Do you think you're worthy? Liang Zhe kicked Qin Xia again. This time, it hit her chest directly, and she vomited a mouthful of blood. He glanced at her in disgust, and then left directly. Qin Xia still wanted to chase after him, but was firmly held down by the bodyguards. 1 second before boarding the plane, I was informed that there was a problem with my visa and was taken to the VIP lounge. When Liang Zhe's assistant saw me, he heaved a big sigh of relief. The back of his shirt was soaked with sweat. It seemed that he had put in a lot of effort to stop me within 10 minutes. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. Lin Guannan had applied for a flight route in advance, and my original intention wasn't to take this flight that had already taken off either. Miss Jiang, even if you and Mr. Liang had a quarrel, you can't just leave like this. I gave a low laugh. Looking at his embarrassed expression, I said, you've been with Mr. Liang for 10 years and know what kind of person he is, but I think you should also know what kind of person I am. When Liang Zhe did these things behind my back, He should have expected the outcome between us. I'm not making a scene, I just want to leave him. Is that so difficult? The assistant paused for a moment but then quickly said, Mr. Liang loves you very much. He loves himself. Jia, how can you doubt my love for you? Liang Zhe arrived very quickly. When I turned around to look at him, his face was pale, his hair was messy, and he hadn't even had time to fasten the buttons of his shirt. Mr. Liang, who was always calm, steady, and unruly, today, he was really out of sorts. He walked quickly towards me. I subconsciously took a step back. He immediately stopped at a distance, his eyes full of hurt. Jia, I know you can't accept what I've done, but I love you. From beginning to end, the only person I love is you. Trust me this one time. Okay, he begged humbly, but it somehow brought back the memories of my previous life. At that time, after I exposed him, he was still arrogant, because he knew in his heart that as long as I was still making a fuss, it meant I loved him, so he was unscrupulous. And now he has realized that he is about to lose me, so he is starting to panic. No, Jia, you said you would love me forever and never leave me. Were you lying to me? Liang Zhe asked me again, hoping to play on our past relationship. But he didn't know that all of this had long been consumed along with the past. I curved my lips and smiled. It was Uncle who lied to me first, wasn't it? With one action and the corresponding reaction, we're even now. As the last syllable fell, Lin Guannan called me. I responded. Just as I was about to walk past Liang Zhe, he held my arm tightly. Jia, you can't leave, and you won't be able to leave either. I'm in charge here. Lin Guannan at the door gave a sneer. His tone was calm but full of the imposing manner of a superior. Mr. Liang, you're not in charge here. He came over and took my hand. When our fingers intertwined, Liang Zhe clenched his fists, and the veins on his hands bulged. Lin Guannan still smiled. Mr. Liang, you'd better think about how to face the reporters outside. After all, you're quite famous now. You're probably the first one to play with your lover to death. 13. Liang Zhe still wanted to chase after me. But he was surrounded by a group of reporters. He looked at Jiang Rujia's back unwillingly, pushing through the crowd, and the light in his eyes gradually faded. Instead, there was a dead silence and emptiness. Suddenly, a string of memories that both belonged and didn't belong to him rushed in. The pictures overlapped, and the past life and this life were completely different. In the memory, after Jiang Rujia found out about his affair with Qin Xia, he let the mistake stand and frankly admitted everything. Jiang Rujia couldn't accept it and made a scene like a crazy person. But she was so silly, how could she possibly bring him down on her own? With just a few words and actions from him, everything was resolved. He wanted to use hypnosis, to make Jiang Rujia approve of him. But when he saw her suffering, he felt extremely distressed, so, he brought Jiang Rujia back to the Xiangshan villa after only 3 months. He told her again and again, sex and love can be separated. I love you, so I can't bear to do such bad things to you, but I'm also human, I have desires and cravings. Jia, can you have some pity on me? Stop being angry with me. Jia, I know you love me, but if you love me, you should also love everything about me, right? Love my despicableness. Love my dirtiness and filth. But Jiang Rujia was like a broken doll. All the light had disappeared from her eyes. He started to panic. He could lose everything, but he couldn't lose Jiang Rujia. He tried his best to be good to Jiang Rujia, trying to go back to the past. He even hated Qin Xia and made decisions on his own. If nothing had happened, he would have married Jiang Rujia happily, had their own children, and they would have grown old together, but he didn't expect that. Jiang Rujia would lock herself in the room and set the villa on fire. When he found out, he rushed into the sea of fire like a madman, ignoring all the obstacles. The burning flames scalded his skin, but he didn't care at all. He only wanted to find Jiang Rujia, but at that time, she had already stopped breathing. Regret and guilt intertwined in his heart, and he was in so much pain that he could hardly breathe. In the end, he also committed suicide in the sea of fire. When he came back to his senses, Liang Zhe let out a painful growl. Like a desperate beast, he pushed through the crowd, stumbling and rushing towards Jiang Rujia's direction with all his might. But in the end, he didn't catch anything, only an illusion. Jiang Rujia was gone. She completely abandoned him, whether in the previous life or this life. He had been abandoned by Jiang Rujia. Obviously, they had agreed to be together forever. He cried hoarsely, without any dignity. Like a child who had made a mistake, he repeated over and over again, "Forgive me, forgive me." 14 inches the 3rd month after arriving in the United States, I have gradually adapted to the life here. I shuttle between the dormitory and the laboratory every day and am no longer confined by love and affection. Lin Guannan and I are now friends, confidants, and the best partners. The ideals that were not realized in my previous life have finally been fulfilled in this life. Later, I heard news about Liang Zhe. It was half a year later, Lin Guannan told me about it. When Liang Zhe was originally going to be imprisoned for kicking Qin Xia to death, the Liang family produced his medical records indicating mental illness, so he was sent to a mental hospital instead. At first, Lin Guannan thought Liang Zhe was pretending. Unexpectedly, Liang Zhe was truly crazy. He holds a doll every day, changes its clothes for it, and gently combs and braids its hair. He likes to hold the doll when he sleeps and sometimes stares at it and cries. Every night, he always says affectionately to the doll, "I love you, Jia. I will only love you forever and ever. You don't have to love everything about me. I can change for you." Coming back with him was also Qin Xia, my senior sister. Don't leave me, don't leave me. The staff are often scared by him when they do the night inspection, and sometimes they avoid him. When I heard this, I was stunned for a moment, but in the end, I didn't say anything. Everyone has their own destiny, and this is the ending he chose for himself.